6:02. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from June 13th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from June 13th, 2017, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Additions and deletions, we need to add under correspondence a letter from Mary Meyer and a letter from Moss Linder under number 7 correspondence. Any other additions, deletions? No? All right, hearing none, then let's move on to the warrants.
Actually, there is probably one more. You do have something from the Historical Society with that announcement.
Yeah, it's in there with the
Well,
letter.
actually, there is actually a note from Charlie.
Right, it's in with the Charlie letter, I'll do them
What,
both
are you
together.
gonna do both together? Okay, all right, because everybody got an individual letter from the Historical.
Yeah. So whoever the warrants are up, they're just being flipped over now. And they're backwards.
We'll get them forward.
Okay, you put it forward. There we go.
Take a motion to pay check warrant number 1, payroll, in the amount of $9,294.49.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. Why, we're picking up trees still. Like, in some of the trees on back.
I can, 90% of the trees are not in our right of way, but they're in our road when they fall down. If you want me to start taking pictures of the trees that we cut up that are way out in the woods, I will be more than happy to do that. But they are not our trees. They are trees that fall into our road.
I do have a question while we're on trees. Did you get a chance to go out and look at the work that D&E did
Yeah.
on the trees? Acceptable, not acceptable? Has anybody been in contact with them?
I have not been in contact with them, no, because the billing, I didn't know you wanted me to.
Okay, so,
I can call them up. I don't, they did better before than they did this time.
okay, so is that something that you can be in touch with them about?
Absolutely.
I mean, you tell them what needs to happen.
Mhm.
I haven't seen the area, so I'm not sure, but if you could be in touch with them and let them know that you have certain expectations.
First of all, you said they only worked from 8:30 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon.
Right.
So they didn't give us a full day, number one. And I think moving forward with more tree work, there needs to be a little bit more better communication, because I think this whole thing was a failure
It wasn't failure.
from what I've found out so far.
Did you guys fix the shoulder on 35?
I did.
It's another one to think about in the billing part.
So, yeah, if you could let us know if you've been in touch with them and come to some kind of a determination or agreement what the situation is, because we do have that bill on the warrants again tonight. Okay. Anything else for that, on the payroll warrant? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $9,294.49, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay warrant number 2, payroll taxes, in the amount of $3,766.04.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll tax warrant number 2 in the amount of $3,766.04, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 3 in the amount of, out of the general fund, in the amount of $18,694.60.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 3 in the amount of $18,694.60, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 4 out of the general fund in the amount of $2,764.39.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 4 in the amount of $2,764.39 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 5 out of the highway fund in the amount of $1,600.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, so are we gonna pay this for 5 hours worth of work?
Well, that's the question, that's why we asked Kurt. If he comes back to us with an answer, whatever the expectations were, he'll come back to us with an answer and.
But
Do you want us to wait another?
you were not in contact with them originally. You didn't set expectations for them, did you?
No, tonight, that morning was.
So who contracted the tree company? Okay, did you set expectations?
Yes.
Were they?
The expectations were that we had, what Kurt had told me, we had a list of trees, approximately 20 to 30 trees, more than a day's work. They offered to come up on a day's basis, bill for the day or bill for the hour. We decided on a bill for the day at $1,600 a day, my thinking that a day started with them rolling out of the garage at about 7 o'clock and probably be here until the better part of 4, being a full day. I did not see the trees that were marked. Kurt said he had a list. I talked to him about the list. The board asked him for that list. The list he had was not readable by somebody else. It had to do with driveways and distances and whatever else. So anyway, I let Kurt know they were coming up on a Wednesday. They canceled. I thought they had called him on that and made a rearrangement. I got a message on Thursday morning when I came in that they were available on Thursday morning. I called them. Actually, I called them before I came to work. He called it, we talked to each other at about 6:15, and they said they'd be up, right up. Anyway, when I got here, I called Kurt. He wasn't there. I called him in the house. He came in. He was going to meet with them and schedule it out. And then I guess they didn't come until later on, and he marked the roads somehow. But my expectation was, we had talked about hazard trees. I think you saw the email that I sent to Kurt the week before, that he'd been out with Bob DeServo. We do have hazard trees, and we have trees that needed a cherry picker that our crew can't do. We need to hire flaggers. We need to schedule the time for this. I mean, it's a big deal for us to take down the tree. They can come in, they can take down 4 or 5 or 6 of them and do whatever is expected. They have the experience, they're insured, they presumably come with enough crew to flag. They have the cherry picker, they got the chipper, they got the whole 9 yards, as long as they understand what it is they're doing. And we do have, according to the tree warden, according to Kirk, we did have trees that they needed to take out. I know Kurt had been talking to Fairpoint and Green Mountain Power about some of the trees that were tangled up in lines, but there are some other big trees that, and big branches that we either can't reach, or that, I don't know, you need the finesse of somebody who cuts for a living.
There's a couple of trees right up just above you, got dead limbs up the top of them, they cut some off the side and never touched the tops.
I don't think they got that far, Irv.
Huh?
I don't think they got that far.
Well, they cut the ones off the side of it.
I think they stopped out in front of Carol Mellis's, or not Mellis's. You're right. They got up
No,
to across from Benson's. But they never used a chipper.
I can't see
We
that they
paid
did.
$400 to have 4 trees taken down before. They cleaned everything up, they chipped everything up, everything looked fine.
Yeah.
Then we pay $1,600 to have 5 trees cut, nothing chipped, stuff left on the side of the road.
Up by Mitch's?
Shoulder torn up.
When they came up to Mitch's, whenever that was, right after town meeting or something, I met them out here because they didn't know where the trees were. I drove them up there, we pointed them out, we walked around them. They said, no problem. I said, Mitch doesn't want the wood, I want it hauled away. If you guys can't haul it, then let me know and we'll, bucket up small enough, we can get it in a bucket of it. And they said they'd take care of it. So they hauled everything away and they swept the road. And they were, when did they leave, Kat? They were out of here before noon.
Yeah, because he met me.
Right, I met them about 8 o'clock in the morning, they were gone before noon. They did 3 or 4, but they were pretty good size and they're punky.
But I do believe that after that, we asked you if you would get some bids or at least bring it by us before you go and make a choice.
And that will happen from now on. Don't
Well,
hesitate.
again, I'm going to go backwards and say that we were told, when we talked about trees repeatedly by Kurt, that he had a list of trees.
Which I did.
Okay, the fact that it wasn't readable by anybody else was not something that was ever brought to anybody's attention. So, and while we're on the subject, let's go to the little piece of paper that was in everybody's box that has the highlighted hours and whatnot on it. There are 5.5 hours of labor time included in that payroll that we just signed off on. I can't find mine at the moment. But you've got, it's all highlighted, there it is, with the sheets, the call-out times, the weekend times. You know, for 5.5 hours of Kurt's time that we paid him for, to go out and take care of trees that either came down, and they're not necessarily all in the right of way, I understand that some of them are on private property, but it gets to be an inherent problem almost every week. There's 1 or 2 or 3 trees that have to be dealt with. So I think it's time that we take the trees and getting them out of there seriously, so that we don't have to continue to have the crew and pay the hourly wage to have them go out and chase them.
These storms have not been helpful.
No, I agree. With the
We have
wind.
storms every year though, and the trees have been growing for a long time too. So, the wind's
Yeah,
blowing
we're
the same as it
behind.
probably was 200 years ago, and it's gonna keep on blowing.
And we
But
have,
we
we've
need
fallen
to just cut the
behind.
trees
We,
down. is what
we have
the
not,
point is.
we haven't had a professional come up for 2 years since Rice Tree came up. They weren't real happy with the work that was done, and that took 2 years, even after we flagged the trees, to get them here to get that done. And it's been in discussion with Kathy, with me, and with the board about this for the better part, well over a year. And I got chewed out by the guy who was upset about the trees up by Mitch's. We went, I talked to Kathy, we went ahead, we had them
And
come
that
in
guy
and do.
doesn't even live in Townshend.
Well, I understand that, but he
So
had
we could
concerns,
take
because
him
he
up
drives
with
the
the
road,
problem.
he drives the road every day, he had concerns about it, and he chewed me out. He didn't come to a board meeting, he didn't write you guys a letter, he chewed me out, and I conveyed the information. The gist of it was that they were too big for the crew to take out, Kurt knew about it. We needed to call and get them done. When we had those done, they said they'd be happy, they explained that they gave us a break, they'd be happy to come back anytime and do some more. And I said, well, we have more that you can do, as soon as we get a list, I'll give you a call. In the meantime, the tree at Hattie's property came up, and that was one that I was gonna have them come up and do. It was dead, it was leaning. She called me, said, you know, are there others that can be done? I called Bob DeServo, I asked him, he said he didn't know if there were more, but Irv knew of some on State Forest Road. I asked Kurt, they didn't have a list, he was meeting with Bob DeServo, whatever. I was trying to get them up to do the one at Hattie's. And I heard from her that she heard from Ed that it may not be in the right of way because it was on the other side of the stone wall. We measured, it was only 14 feet from the center of the road, whatever. Anyway, on Easter afternoon, it fell, took out the power lines, and people didn't have Easter dinner because of it. Kurt had to go out on a call out to cut it. The fire department was there. The tree was across the road. You know, it became a nuisance. because
Our
we-
lines are done.
Huh?
Our lines are done.
Yeah.
They got tripped, they went really down.
Well, they
somehow
get tripped. But anyway, the power went out for what? It wasn't.
But, when you get back to the stone walls, that's not always to the edge of the road.
Well, I don't know the rules, so anyway, I called the tree company
I
and
can tell you
told them,
pretty
look,
much
we're gonna have more, we're gonna have more to go,
The
and
width
you
of
guys wanted Kurt to deliver a list. I called him on the list, he said he had the list, but it wasn't something he could actually deliver because it wasn't gonna make any sense to anybody. I called them up, they were available like 2 days later. I said, fine, he said he had 20, 30 trees, at least a day's work and then some. So we called them, that's how it happened, but I won't call them again, obviously, and we'll bid whatever out. But we need a list of trees that the bidders can actually look at, which means flagging them and having a pre-conference meeting and making sure that those trees are worthy. I mean, when we had Rice come through, they were cutting little 3-inch elm trees that were dead to the side of the road. There was no reason to pay people real money to take out the brush that you could basically take out with a heavy mower.
So basically, the question becomes, what would you like to do with this warrant? That's what we're discussing, is this warrant number 5. And do we want to, we can vote on it, postpone it for another week, we can approve it pending Kurt's negotiation with the tree company as far as the outcome. How would you like to deal with this?
Well, I'd like to know $1,600 is a full day's rate.
That is what they quoted as the
Okay,
days.
we didn't get a full day
8
rate.
days rate, right, no, I would agree with that. I didn't
So
see when they left.
I would raise the question, are you coming back for the other 3 hours to finish up? And handle it that way as far as paying the $1,600. Moving forward, I think we wouldn't be having any of these discussions right now if this whole thing was managed properly. And more of Kurt's involvement with the tree company, outlining exactly what we expect from them, how it's gonna be done, and we wouldn't even be talking about this right now. But because that didn't happen, things didn't get chipped, trees were just dropped into someone's yard, they made a mess on the side of the road, they were gone in 5 hours. nobody was watching the store. So, I mean, that's a major screw up, and we shouldn't let that happen again. But I would want to ask the question, are you coming back for the other 3 hours?
So is that something you'll take care of? You'll contact Danny, Kurt?
Yes.
And find out if they'll come back and at least clean up the mess they made?
I'm right at that.
Okay. So, do we?
So I think we hold it pending a
Well,
response to
we have
that.
to vote on it, there's a motion on the table.
Do you want to keep this till the next meeting, or? Communicate it to Craig, how do you want to pay him for the next meeting?
Well,
Pertain-
most
Whatever
likely,
outcome, okay.
most likely what's gonna happen is this motion's going to fail, which means it's gonna come up again, at the next meeting, which would be July 11th. So that would give a window for them to, or for you to talk to them to come up and clean it up, or to do whatever needs to be done to satisfy
And
the.
that's still within the 30-day window if they're doing the work. I mean, it's
Pretty
not-
close to it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Okay, so
We push some bills out many months.
the motion on the table, the only problem is this is actually 2017
We're
bill,
not
it's
gonna be
gonna
close
carry
for the
over, but
12th.
anyway. Motion is to pay highway warrant number 5 in the amount of $16,000.
100,
1,600.
1,600. 16,000, let's try that again.
definitely a whole day's worth of it.
Yeah, no, that's not a full day's work. Okay, for $1,600. So all those in favor of paying that warrant for $1,600 signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Alright,
Abstentions? The motion fails.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 6 out of the highway fund in the amount of $209.14.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 6 in the amount of $209.14 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 7 out of the highway fund in the amount of $965.26.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 7 in the amount of $965.26 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Make a
Motion passes, go ahead.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 8 out of the equipment fund in the amount of $1,175.46.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying the equipment warrant number 8 in the amount of $1,175.46 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 9 out of the general fund in the amount of $830.59.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 9 in the amount of $830.59 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Make a motion to pay check warrant.
Motion passes.
Yep, make a motion to pay check warrant number 10 out of the highway fund in the amount of $78.78.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of paying highway warrant number 10 in the amount of $78.78 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 11 out of the equipment fund in the amount of $34.25.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Set the gas.
Yeah, there's only one receipt there for the gas.
Second, Joy.
They're both
Yeah,
from
well-
Riverbend, but there's only one.
I'll check in the drawer, maybe it's in the drawer.
It's the smaller of the two, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it's
$10.
$12.
Yeah.
Probably 5.3 gallons, whatever.
Yeah, so you're missing one for $22.25.
22, 25.
$22.25, so it's missing.
March 29th, or? is that the other one?
June 14th.
June 14th.
Oh, it's last week. I'll look for it.
Right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 11 in the amount of $34.25 signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion fails.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 12 out of the general fund in the amount of $9,282.46.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 12 in the amount of $9,282.46 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. All right, so moving on to the highway report. I'll let you go ahead and do whatever you might have.
Last week you asked me to call Jeff Nugent about our inventory to see if that would keep us in compliance with either our infrastructure inventory and our culverts. He said, yeah, but just make sure. And I said, okay. So I called Megan at D-Trans. It's no problem. We'll be covered. We'll be in compliance with all of our inventories with this next one.
So it goes together as one?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that stormwater, clean water inventory, ditching and all that, it's all gonna be part of it. It's all gonna be all together, it'll be all done for the state or inventories.
Okay.
He asked me to call about,
Did they have a time frame?
he's still behind on the towns, the 2 towns or 3 towns he told us he had to do it before us. So. Cause I just started last year, remember?
Right.
Told me to get a hold of the state about using magnesium chloride on the roads because of this Clean Water Act. That is not a problem. It helps the roads, it controls the dust, it keeps the dust from going in the rivers. That is not a problem.
It doesn't run that.
They're promoting, no. And Miss Angel, we got half the project done for Miss Angel, the Angel project. We just have to finish up the ditch in her yard. And hopefully we'll do that tomorrow, because it looks like tomorrow's gonna be a good day without rain.
So you guys did fix the ditch in the yard?
That's what we have to do now, the ditch.
The culvert's done.
The culvert's done.
You're not gonna extend it, you're gonna leave it the way it is?
No, I'm gonna add 3 or 4 feet on it. We have a cutoff piece up there that'll slide it
And she's happy so far?
down. She's very happy.
Did I miss a vote on the ditch? We just decided to fix the ditch too,
No,
or the culvert?
we have not.
Oh, we haven't voted on the ditch?
The only thing that we voted on is to actually replace the culvert. That's all further we went with, that project. And then we had, Steve was going to meet with Irv and Christine Angel. And we did, in fact, receive a handwritten, and Susan can find the bloody thing. No, because it's not in the right sequence.
Oh, it's good to know on top of my ray game.
Oh, just stop. From Christine Angel that said, stated the 14th, I give the town permission in the form of an easement to make whatever repairs and upkeep it needs to maintain the culvert and the swell across my back meadow, Christine Angel.
It's actually not an easement unless it's in the land records, and
So basically, that's what I'm assuming that's
it's a
what
general
you,
permission to do anything.
what you came back with after you met with her.
Now, does the town have an easement across her yard for that?
They can't, not supposed to interfere with any drainage,
Because the town put that in.
years ago. And I put the culvert that Kurt just took out, I put in before the sewer line was put in. Perhaps, I don't know, a long time ago now.
So basically, to answer your question, that no, we did not vote on doing anything to the swale itself, but it kind of sounds like that's by default, because the town put it in originally in the 1800s, I believe
You
it
put
was.
in the highway law, Title 19, that tells you have to maintain them swales.
So if you take and you bring down a load of stone and just dump it in the ditch on the side of the road anywhere, it's up to the town to dig it out? Cause I mean, I got all sorts of debris on jobs, I could just stop on the side of the road and just let it rip into the ditch.
The town
and
hadn't been
drive
maintaining
away.
it, that's a problem.
Well, town maintaining it, Irv, the stone that's put into it is blocking the ditch. I
You
mean,
used
Steve,
some of
Steve,
it,
what did
didn't
you
you,
see
Kurt?
when you went there?
I moved the
Please,
first time.
hold on a second. What did you observe when you first walked onto the premises, Steve?
The culvert was too short for the road.
Yep.
The road wasn't maintaining its proper width because it had deteriorated because the pipe was too short. The grade of the swale was about 12 inches above the culvert because so much sediment has filled in that swale. So that's what I observed. Along with, yes, we all saw the pictures of the blue tarps halfway through the lawn,
Now,
covering
would the
stone.
blue tarps impede the water exit?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But what we learned was it's the town's responsibility to maintain that, because the town put that in there. And it hasn't been maintained, that's the problem.
Yes, but if you put something into it, it's not, whatever, if it's. you
Well,
gotta
the
fix
stone
it,
was put
fix it.
in after all the damage was done anyways.
The
It
problem-
shouldn't have been,
She
shouldn't have been put
exacerbated, she
there.
exacerbated the problem.
Right, it shouldn't have been put there, it was. You used one of the piles around the culvert you put in, correct?
Yeah.
Do you have something else to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we've hashed this over. When I left that culvert the first time last year, the culvert was daylighted above the ditch. The ditch was lower. We had excavated all that sand out of there. We had raked it off. We even seeded it with grass seed. And then things
Did it
changed.
rain and then the grass?
Didn't you-
grew?
No.
But
That,
didn't you
when the stone was put in there, it filled in where we excavated because it held all the sediment
Back.
and there's garbage that goes through there too. Back, right. But now it has changed because the stone's in there because she thought she was doing the right thing and we changed it again.
Well, she contracted for a job that didn't get finished. I mean, they brought the stone in, but then they didn't do what they were supposed to do with the stone, so she ended up with 3 or 4 piles of stone. So that's really,
And the top, like when we daylighted culvert in the woods, we just daylight culvert in the woods if we put in a new culvert. We don't go and make a swale through the woods for the water to go. That ditch was actually excavated for that culvert to go through her yard.
For that purpose.
Right. So that was done by the town. It's just not a runoff of a daylighted culvert, so.
Like I said, as I recall, it was in the late 1800s, it was done by hand or someone not.
1890s.
Yeah. So it's been a long time coming, and historically, we have owned it. So, does that answer your question, or is there something else that?
Whatever, I don't care.
Well, this is, I mean, just to refresh, and we're on camera and all that, but to refresh, this is kind of where we were a year ago, and then she came back with letters indicating that she wanted more than that done, including, some landscaping work and whatever with her lilacs and up the road. That having been said, I mean, that's kind of where it sort of went south. And Irv wasn't here at that point in time, Kit was back and forth with it, it became a divided, house very, very quickly. And the letters and her issues with the water quality that was coming through the culvert and all of that became talking points. But basically about a year ago, this is where we were. You had done some work. She was happy
We
with
had
it.
already done the work.
We had already done the work and then she contracted to have more work done and it didn't work out. You gave her a short piece of culvert, somebody put it through the wall, a little high,
How far?
the far wall.
How far out do you have to dig with this swale? In other words, how big is it? Is it just underneath? Is it a retention pool underneath the culvert pipe, or is it actually going to make the water flow all the way across the
No,
yard?
it's all the way across her yard.
It's all the way across?
Yeah,
So you have to
Yeah.
actually dig that all out?
yeah. I'm gonna use some of the material to make the high drive for the driveway for the lawnmower. And I have to take the wall apart to drop that culvert down. Deeper elevation on the culvert.
So, but you'll be working solely within the swale?
Well,
You have to drive across the yard to get to the swell.
Well, I understand, but the work will be done within what is considered the town swale?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be driving around the yard haphazardly.
Is that a 2-rod swell?
Huh?
Is that a 2-rod wide
I
swell?
don't know. Ask
Driveway. How many
Ask
cubits?
her. Ask him if the tree is in the middle of the road. I don't know anymore. I don't care.
Irv, what's the easement say? You must have it on the back of your hand by now.
No, but all you gotta do is run in and look at Title 19.
Well, I
read
figured
that-
you might know the specs
that-
of it by now.
I did, I just told you.
Well, you told me to look in the book.
The town has got to maintain a swale where it crosses the property if they require to.
I'm asking you, what are the specs of it?
Well, if it's like the new soil we gotta put in for the town, it'll be a 2-foot flat bottom pair bottom.
Alright, so, anyway, did you have something else other than?
Yeah, last week I hurt my arm. I picked up the garage door, power went out.
I wanted to ask you about that.
And, geez, I mean, ask it, it felt like electric in there. And, so I iced it, I didn't ice it Sunday night. But anyways, I've been icing almost every night. I take ibuprofen, anti-inflammatory. It feels better. I went to the doctor today because that was the first time I could get into the doctor. He thinks I tore a muscle or hurt a muscle and have like a tendonitis in it. So we're gonna go another week and I'm sure it'll be better. So.
Okay, I did want to ask you, that just brings up the question, is there not a battery backup to those doors?
Battery backup?
A battery backup that operates those doors?
We have a generator, but it's not on the generator. It's a separate panel, right? It's a separate panel for the generator.
So it isn't under generator.
Like the welder's not on the generator.
Well, that doesn't mean you wouldn't
But,
need
you
a
know,
welder.
you gotta-
No, if your power went out, I think you'd want to be able, I think you'd want your generator to be able to open your door so you get your trucks out.
I know that
Well,
in our house,
I mean, if
it
when
is
we're designing it for that, one of the things you would want, the generator as a backup for would be to open those
to open the
doors.
garage.
Right, I mean, we always just pull the rope and pick them up.
Right.
So.
Is that, I mean, so it was just the way you picked it up was
Just
the
the way I
what
picked
caused
it
it?
up.
Okay, but so the door did go up fairly easily with the manual pull?
Yeah.
Okay, so it operated properly is what I'm getting.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they're heavy, they're not that heavy.
Well, like I said, it might not be a bad idea to consider having that added to the generator panel, if at all possible, because I know it makes a heck of a difference when there's a power outage to be able to get the doors up and down using the generator.
When you get old.
Yes, when you get older. Just FYI. Okay, did you have something else then?
No, that's what you told me last week or last week to do it. And that's what I did.
Okay,
We gotta talk about the paving and.
we're gonna talk about the paving and Bridge 42 both, yeah. Okay, so everybody should have had a copy of the paving 2017.
Yeah, I left the dates out. It's the same thing you saw, Kurt, but I just left the dates out. Yeah, probably. And this is pretty uniform with the ones that we've done in the past, short, pretty simple, and,
Yeah, there's not a thing in that said you gotta shim that road and true it up before you pave.
well, no, because there isn't any,
We're
Not
just,
in this thing here.
no, because we're just doing an overlay, we're not.
because Kurt told me we weren't shimming it.
You're not gonna true your road up, then you're gonna have them goddamn ruts in that.
Well, last time I did that, you told me not to do it because the state doesn't do it, so we did an overlay on.
I told you a half-inch shim.
We didn't do a half-inch shim there, they just did an overlay from Deer Valley up to.
I wrote up the specifications the highway foreman gave me.
If you wanna do a half-inch shim and then an overlay, then we're not gonna get much done. Time before that, did exactly what we
I
did.
don't know nothing about it, the rest of the board can decide.
Alright. It's gonna take a,
I don't understand what we're talking about, but that's okay.
It's a thinner coat that goes under the main coat to level,
I
basically.
can understand
Yeah.
that, yes,
That's a
okay.
shim coat, and then you do 1.25 on top of that.
Okay.
We have done it both ways in the past. I mean, smaller jobs,
We have.
sometimes you don't shim. The one on Athens Road, obviously, we did.
we did,
But we also,
we had a lot more money.
well, we had a lot more money to spend, and you'd also done that a year before. You did an emergency repair top coat, and it wasn't too bad when they came in to do it the second time
We're
around.
talking about the top part of Grafton Road.
Grafton Road, from
Down.
Grafton line to,
Anita's,
it's like 1.18 miles to,
Where
Acton
it's
Hill.
really split. Okay.
Acton Hill.
So anyway, Kurt dropped off the specifications for it, so this is a boilerplate, and he's got it up there on his, and I just morphed it into what we already had. Changed the dates and made those generic so you can look at them and see how you want. There is a requirement that bids be and a price per ton put in place. And contract award would go to, you know, a validated company with insurance certificates and all of that. But nobody who isn't in the business and you don't know the name of is gonna bid on it anyways for this size job. So I mean, it's gonna be a pretty routine.
I hope you don't feel all the joints like you did the last one, they done it by Valley Cas up through. You can feel every joint where this load ended up, and they started again, there's a bump in every one of them.
What's that called there, or what's that called?
You're supposed
Is
to
that the mill
mill and key in the end.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the one by Sleeper's house here, I know where everybody. They didn't do a very good job.
So I'm sure that Kurt would like to get this out so that we can get some planning done. Does anybody feel a need to set some dates and approve this so it can be put out for
The ad that goes in the paper will be simple, a simple ad that says that the town of Townshend is looking at a single paving job, and that information is available at the clerk's office or at the highway foreman's, and there'll be a pre-construction conference contractors meeting, you know, as of such and such a date, you pick the time. And the specs will be available for anybody to pick them up in advance. Usually give them a week to 10 days after the conference to get to a select board meeting by 4 o'clock in business on Tuesday. Turn in a bid sheet.
Does anybody feel comfortable enough or wanna do this, or where are we?
Next
If we
meeting,
can't handle the paving, we're never gonna get through 42.
Oh, paving's easy.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it. Well, what do we have to figure out dates? Is that what we're?
Well, we have to
looking
set some kind of a timeline, yes,
at? Okay.
so that they
When do
are,
we need to get bids in so that we can get it started before it gets cold?
Well, yeah, well,
July 11th and 25th are select board meetings.
Yeah. How long is the bid process?
we can have the bids in by July 11th. And I can meet with these guys.
I mean, it's what they do every day for a living.
Right, yeah, exactly. I
It's not a
mean,
big
For
stretch.
convenience, they could put a 10-day, 2-week
Right.
turnaround is.
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with the process,
Yeah.
so.
The longer
That's pretty straightforward.
you wait, the longer you're gonna wait, because they're gonna have all these other bids in ahead of you.
Which is,
Right.
yeah, you want them to do it when it's hot.
So, should we say let's get bids in by the next meeting?
by the 11th.
Yeah.
We can do that. And get it in the paper next week in the comments on Wednesday. In the meantime, we can make some phone calls.
I make a motion that we put the paving out to bid, bids due in by July 11th, which is the next select board meeting.
Second.
And that they will be open that evening.
And they will be
6
open.
PM evening, right. Okay, is there a second, you second that? Okay, is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of warning or putting notice in the paper of the paving project bid, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Okay, please get the X's out and actually put real dates in there.
Oh, we will. Kurt and I will work on conferences.
But the conference isn't in here, not on this one.
No, we will have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. all
I
right.
dropped that out because the one he dropped off had the conference for the next morning.
Oh, yeah, that was.
And so I just left it out because there was no time to get it out.
That's why I called you that day going, there's no way we can do
I
that.
had to hear rewrite it. Which I did, I forgot the dates were in there already.
Okay. 42, now you were working on the bid piece for Bridge 42. Did you have a piece of paper?
I don't have a piece of paper, I mean, it's gonna be a stack, it's gonna be a thick contract package, and it will be a bid package. I'd be happy to show it to anybody. I've got it mostly typed into the computer, and I've got a copy of an older one here from another project. But it is a serious statewide bid package that runs probably 25 pages, and we'll have to decide. We can get a notice in the paper. We'll have to decide whether you're gonna have a deposit certificate of deposit placed for 10% of the project bid as a holding, and as a return, or how you want to approach this. But at the last meeting, the board seemed to decide, or seemed to have a will, that you want a general contractor to do everything. And that means order the bridge, contract for the bridge to be
Install it.
made, get it delivered, installed, contract for the paving that goes on top of the bridge, all that. And basically leave it off the select board's table. So we can get an ad to that effect in the paper to come and pick up, or pick up online, the bid package, which will have those general details in it, with Beck's Engineering and contact information for Beck's, so they can talk to Beck about that bridge component. And then people can bid it out, and we'll do the same thing, we'll get it into, back into the select board sometime in July. And we'll set a hope for, wish for date by the end of the year. And so we have another, and they're not getting
We're
in
not
the brook.
restricted on our time. because
And they're not
we're
doing work in the brook, so it
We're not
doesn't,
in the water, no.
we're not in the water, so it doesn't have to be done in October.
I
but
just,
they'll
we
want
have
to
a new
do it
A and
full
R guy too, by the way, I just talked to him tonight. so.
We're going to definitely need to have a mandatory pre-contractors meeting
Well, yeah,
with that particular one, since they're gonna be responsible for the bridge as well.
and I think that we want to talk to the engineers, and I think we want to try to loop some other people into this for that conference phase. You and I talked about that, but if we do get 2 or 3 bids back, it'd be nice to have somebody who knows
Right, so
that
you go through the bid
to help
say,
make a recommendation on, well, you don't necessarily want to go with a guy that's $80,000 less
Right.
than the
Right.
next nearest bidder.
Well, we also wanna make sure we're comparing apples and apples.
Yeah. I mean, there are bridges and there are bridges.
Okay, so what's the,
Rob and I can build a bridge for a while.
what's 2 logs?
Well, more than 2, but yeah.
2 would do it, 1 for each tire. Anyway, what kind of timeline do you wanna look at?
Well, for that, I'd like the bids to come back toward the end of July.
Yeah.
The tentative, and I wouldn't put a fixed date on it, I mean, the other ones that we've looked at do have fixed dates. I would put a tentative date by the end of 2017, for, like January,
For
for
completion.
December 31st, a target completion date.
That's not what I was going.
Okay, I'm
what
sorry.
I'm going more along the lines, are we going to advertise these 2 together, or are we going to do two separate pieces?
I'm gonna get the paving ad out right away, and we'll get this one out probably for the 25th, for returns on the 25th. as
Okay,
opposed
so
to
you're
the
going July 25th.
But I'd still like to get it out this week or next, well, maybe next week.
Okay,
But I'll run it past you guys, I'll give you a phone call and you can take a look at what gets morphed together. It is just a big package, so.
okay.
But if it gets too cold, that bridge, they won't be able to complete it.
I do understand that, because it does have to be paved on top, so you wanna get out of there by the end of October if you can.
So we're looking to open bids the 25th of July.
Possibly, yeah, that would be my target right now, I'll get this underway.
Once you get after September, then you may have problems.
Well, I don't think the problem's gonna be the installation, I don't think there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, it is, somebody's gonna need a crane to pick it up and set it in place and all that work that goes by. They'll probably get it in and out in 3 days and be done, except for maybe the paving. The problem's gonna be the construction of the bridge. And if you pick the
Right.
company that's in Atlanta, you're looking at a 4-week delivery, let alone manufacturing, so, it depends on who's gonna make it. And if the contractor's gonna go look for bridge manufacturers, it could come out of California or Oregon by the time, by
What?
the time that happens, so.
I was gonna say something, I don't remember what it was. Okay. I was gonna ask Kurt something. What roads will have to be, what notifications will have to happen, while that bridge is, being placed? What roads would have to be notified, would we have to notify them?
Oh, we have to notify all the town boards where they have road connection there.
Which road?
And New Frame does too, because there's people that come off the New Frame Road. The Wardsboro Road, New Frame, and New Frame Road and Wardsboro to go on our roads.
Okay, so how
I mean,
many,
I'm saying they just put a notice, it's
We'll just put a
gonna be
notice up there.
closed, you know, as soon as we find out.
notice on the road itself,
On the
or?
road itself and at the town hall, you know, they have it posted in 3 different places too, and all neutral lake. yeah.
Okay. All right, roughly how long would we estimate that it would take that the road would be closed? Just on a guess.
Maybe a week.
I don't say that, the contractor's gonna say,
I would say maybe a week, who knows? Yeah. They're not gonna tear the bridge off till they get the new bridge.
And it really should, I mean, from my understanding, it really, talking to people, I mean, it should go fairly quick. Ideally, like 2 or 3 days. But
That's, yeah. assuming weather and
assuming weather, and they don't find
stuff
anything.
shows up and
They're not gonna find anything they're not supposed to find. I mean, it's not,
Right.
they're not gonna get into much foundation work, they're not gonna get into the water. Basically, they're gonna have a prefabricated bridge, which is basically something you bolt together. Generator on site, impact gun, and go for it, nuts and bolts.
crane it up and lock it in.
Crane up the heavier beams and bolt the deck onto it and piece it together, stand up the guardrails, get some pavement on it. In a limited basis, it should be open, I would think, in 2 days. I mean, depending on, once you start the job, you're gonna wanna hustle right
So it
through.
takes a little while to cut the end of them abutments.
I don't doubt it. I mean, I've never done one.
Concrete, it don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It should be cured by now too, right? That
Never
concrete should
know.
be cured by now.
It should be cured, yeah. No, but they say time they cut them off level that way, that build up, that don't happen overnight.
John and I are gonna go out and steal the bridge.
Okay, is there anything else for Kurt while he's here?
Performance reviews for his employees.
Oh, that's
I
right.
know, I forgot all about
Please do that because we're going to have to get that
that.
done.
I'm sorry about that, I'm busy.
Just make note that we need them for Ed and for Bob.
I remember talking about this.
Did Windham Solid Waste come up today, empty dumpsters? Tuesday, they were supposed to give us clean ones.
They,
We're gonna be using theirs with contract with Triple T for the recycling. We're gonna continue with the compactor, I'll talk to you about it. Kristen Benoit from Windham Solid Waste should be up tomorrow afternoon about 4 o'clock to have a little conference with Arnold and a couple other people about responsibilities of transfer station attendants. And we're, at the moment, the intent is to use the dumpsters from Windham Solid Waste.
okay.
Okay.
I did call them last week, this week.
Yeah, she said they were just gonna, for all the towns, they were gonna try to change them out early this week if they could. And they've got a couple on reserve for us, and so.
Okay.
Do we any, patch left?
Yes, I did not patch from the last time we talked. I know, it's rained a lot and I haven't.
With this rain we've been having, the hole keeps getting deeper.
I will patch. Tomorrow's gonna be a nice day. I'll send Ed out to patch.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, town clerk, you should all have counter money sheets. The treasurer, do you have a report for us, Joe?
Yep, you have, in sweep account, you have $726,813.42. The checking account, you have $23,731.43, for a total of $750,544.85.
Okay, are there any questions for Joe?
We came up with that 85 cents.
Oh, bananas.
Clipboard?
Bananas.
On the clipboard?
No, it's not on the clipboard.
Oh,
The letters are on the clipboard, but the, there it is. What's it after that? It's not where it goes. It goes here. All right, and that goes after this one. Okay, which order did we put them on?
I had
We
library
put them
first,
on
is it
Charlie's
library?
first, all right. We received notification, a letter from Charlie Marchant.
We're under treasurer, library trustee.
Oh, in the wrong one, okay. Let's go back to the library trustee. Now I've got to find the other paper. There's the library trustee, so there's,
And then Tom's a volunteer clerk. Schmidt.
and that goes over here, all right. Then let's start with the library trustees. Members of the select board, the library trustees would like to encumber the remaining $5,687 in the special line category, library expenses for the town. The money will be used to cover the cost of installing a railing in the back of the library and painting the exterior of the building. Thank you, Maggie Bells. So they're asking to encumber their surplus. The first thing that we need to make aware, or everybody aware of, is the fact that the surplus has not been determined yet. They made a mathematical error in coming up with this amount. And as of tonight, all the bills for the library have not been paid. We have payroll that still has to be dealt with in that, and it's not completely cleared out. So, on the one hand, they're asking to retain the surplus, which we need to do before the end of the year if we're going to allow them to keep it and not give it back to the taxpayers. On the second part of that, since they're using it to install a railing and or paint the building that belongs to the town, that's going to exceed our purchase policy amount, and that should be going out to bid.
Yes.
Both those projects will probably.
Yeah. that was 90 days.
So, there's a multi-level,
They will have a surplus at the end of the year. It's gonna approach that amount of money, maybe 1,000 less. It's gonna be somewhere in the $4,500 to $5,000 range. And they will have that left over from the appropriation that they received in 2016 from the taxpayer. The calculations for coming up with that surplus are not right, and I'll have to talk to the trustees and the librarian about how they did those calculations. Maggie is the treasurer for the library, and she is the one who wrote the request. And historically, it's something that they've done in the past from time to time, although never quite like this. So anyway, we asked that the library trustees write a request and indicate what it is that they wanted the money for, if the select board was going to authorize the reserving of surplus monies rather than returning to the taxpayer. It isn't very much money, and the project of painting the building is a pretty big project. That said, we're not going to know for another week or so probably what that exact amount is. Although it's pretty close right now, we don't know exactly what it's going to be. And if they want to reserve the entire amount, then we should obviously know how much that is. But also to make sure that they do the bid process, that they try to get 3 bids on painting and qualified contractors and
insurance.
get the contracts right.
Yeah.
The LCT has been on us and every town right now about doing contracts correctly.
Workers' comp.
Due to liability and due to everything else, litigation and whatnot, it's just gotten pretty heavy-handed. So there are forms and there are formats and protocols for doing this right. And anyway, that would be the nature of a letter that went back to them. But I don't think there's a number that you can approve tonight that's.
But we can approve in
We could
theory.
approve the idea.
Well, we can approve in theory that a surplus will be returned to the library once that surplus is determined. If that's our choice. So I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Until all the bills are paid for 2017.
Right.
Yep.
But we
Yeah.
can still encumber whatever surplus they're.
Whatever
going to
surplus
get.
it is, right.
Right,
After the bills are all paid.
right.
It's gonna be somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000, 5,100, something like that.
So is that a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Is there any further discussion on that?
No, we do need to make it clear that they have to follow the bidding process.
Well, that's gonna be on the backside of it.
Oh.
Right now, we're just encumbering
Right.
the money so
Right.
that, okay, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of informing the library trustees that we will encumber any surplus remaining after all the bills are paid for the fiscal year that's in July, or June 30th, 2017. Signify by saying
Putting it into a maintenance fund. Putting it in a maintenance fund.
in a maintenance
Well,
fund?
the reserve, maintenance reserve. Yeah.
Okay,
We'll just go with it.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So then the second piece would be just basically an instruction to have Craig notify the library that the expenditure of that kind of funds, that amount of money on the building, on the physical structure itself, would be required to follow the town purchase policy, and that in fact bids would have to go out that would include insurance certificates, etc. for that work.
I'm gonna ask you, we're on camera, I'm gonna ask you a detailed question on that. Does the board wanna be involved in that process, or does it wanna just monitor it? Because I can help oversee it, and the trustees can handle it, or they can pass the whole thing over to you, so that you actually look at the bids. I mean, it is the town's building, and you are I mean, they maintain it. The lines of who does what is not all that clear. But as to whether you want the trustees to take a look at bids for painting the exterior of the building, I don't know how much that's gonna cost, say $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and make a decision.
But I don't think we could award it based on that, if it goes over whatever amount.
Well, they have
We're
maintenance, and they have
encumbered.
maintenance budget money coming to them as of July 1st. I haven't looked at their,
But again,
Right.
that would be their decision to make if they're gonna use their entire maintenance budget
right,
on this painting project. You know, so it's gonna be difficult without them being present
okay, so.
to have that discussion.
I'll notify them as to the protocols of the bidding process and the contracting process, and we'll
Because
just
they
keep,
would
we'll
have
keep,
to,
it- we'll just keep an eye on
they
it.
would have to be open here. But we would need their counsel as to whether or not they're willing to accept whatever that.
So you
bid
want the
is.
bids to come to the select board? Okay.
And so they.
The bids will come to the select board, but you're gonna wanna work with them on,
Exactly.
Right, they're gonna have to be here when we open them. too.
okay. So this is gonna be a joint,
Right.
okay.
Is there anything
joint,
else on that
responsibility.
that we might wanna add when we're thinking about bids? A lot of them tonight? Okay, so if you would let them know that.
It'll be a joint responsibility, so we'll
Well,
work that out.
both pieces of it, that we
Right.
will encumber whatever money's left, we won't know what that is for a while yet, and that in fact, it will have to go through the formal bid process, being noticed in the papers, and opened at the select board, sealed bids, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then the next one is the Townsend Fire Department. And it's Dear Select Board, on behalf of the Townsend Fire Department, I would like to request that all funds left over from our current budget ending June 30th, 2017 be carried over to our July 1st, 2017 budget. We are currently in need of some firefighter safety equipment that will be out of date in September 2017. Thank you for your continued support. Sincerely, Brian Schmidt. It's another request
Same thing
to reserve,
with the fire department.
right.
Yeah, except they've gone ahead to decide what it is they need, and they have the autonomy to basically order it on their own. They had a meeting last night, and they don't know, we don't know what is, I talked to Brian today, we don't know quite what is in reserve yet. But the intention is to take a look at some of these things, and I guess you weren't there last night, but some of these things that they need to buy for safety equipment, and use some town money, use some money that they have from other accounts toward the purchase of some of these things, and forego some of the things that they were budgeting for this year. So they're gonna do some shifting and some reallocating and whatnot. They just would like, because they will have a small surplus at the end of the year, they just would like to have that roll over, so to speak, so that they have a little bit more liquidity going into this year. They've had some unexpected expenses, or they have some unexpected needs.
I don't know, just general discussion of safety equipment will cover a reserve. Because it's only supposed to be spent for whatever it's reserved for.
Oh, I understand that, and if the board approved to hold any surplus, it would be, I would assume it would be dedicated for the purchase, or go toward the purchase, shall we say, of safety equipment. I don't think their surplus is gonna cover the need that they're anticipating, what they expect to expend. And therefore, they'll get into some of this year's budget money. They'll shift some of the other money that they budgeted for this year for other things like tools toward some of those
Sort of
purchases.
updated, yeah.
Well, yeah, and again, I'm not, I don't keep track of the fire department and their needs. This is something that's come up, and I guess they voted on, so.
So the request is on the table to,
I believe their surplus is gonna run about 10,000, just so you have some idea what you're dealing with.
their request is to, again, hold any, yeah,
Any money's not expended from last year's allocation.
to encumber any surpluses that they might have as of the end of the fiscal year. So I'm gonna entertain a motion to discuss to officially discuss. Someone?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Now, is there any discussion on that?
So do we need to Herb's point, do we need from them a detailed allocation of what they're gonna use the funds for?
I've spoken to Brian, and it was my understanding that it's to replace Scott packs or air packs.
Oh,
That's what I heard.
Is that correct?
That's what I heard.
That they need to replace the breathing apparatus, the interior breathing apparatus.
How long do they last now?
Yeah, not too long.
Well, the ones they bought didn't they just buy a few
Yeah.
rebuilt or something, remanufactured or recertified, something like that, and
They did.
those didn't hold up that well. That was not a good purchase, but, and I don't remember how many they bought, 5 or 4
No, I think they were
4, yeah.
two of them.
That was last year, but anyway, it was a good deal, and,
Not such a good deal when you gotta replace them.
I was gonna say, I mean, if it looks like a good deal, you really ought to be more wary. I believe they came out of Colorado. That having been said, I mean, that's one of the things that they're trying to compensate for is not having these available as they expected to, so.
Any further discussion? No? Hearing none, all those in favor of reserving any surplus the fire department has for the purchase or replacement of, I guess it would be, safety equipment, specifically the Scott packs, signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I stayed.
Okay, motion passes, 1 abstention. Members of the public, Mr. Bills isn't here. Moving on to Charlie Martin, which I tried to do earlier in the wrong order. No, it's Christina. No, that's not the right one, this one. Okay, now we got the page. The Townshend Historical Society would like to close the area around Buck Hill Road and State Forest Road at the entrance to Scott Bridge for 45-foot,
Minutes.
no,
Yeah, it's 45 minutes.
45 minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, from 4 p.m. to 4:45. Oh, maybe it is for 45 feet.
says for,
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it says for
around the
40
bridge.
45 feet on July 23rd, 2017. The time would be 4 p.m. to 4:45. Our plan is, just a teacher, you know, doesn't it?
Ask a member of our
Fire
fire
department.
department to assist in
This.
whatever.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me that's having difficulty with this.
okay,
Charlie
I
Martin-
want to close State Forest, the other side of Scott Bridge.
Yeah,
For a
but
while.
my understanding then, unless that something real drastic, 15 minutes, all you're supposed to be able to close the road. Unless you're replacing the bridge or something to notify ahead of time.
Well, I don't think it was, it's to close the area around. I don't think they planned to actually close the road, did they, when he was just talking about it?
No, I think what their plan is,
They're parked on either side.
yeah,
On the road.
they're gonna dedicate the bridge.
Right.
I guess the state's doing that.
There were some people coming down from Montpelier.
Well, you got another letter here.
Yeah, there's a
And then they're gonna have the square dance in the bridge.
in the bridge.
Right.
Yep, right here it says, we would like to close the area around Buck Hill Road and State Forest Road.
45 feet. That doesn't really, I mean,
At the entrance to Scott Bridge for 45 feet. Right.
Yeah, I think we
My
need.
impression wasn't that there was gonna be anything more than a temporary closure, if they were gonna close it at all. That there wasn't gonna be a detour. I know
That's what it
that.
says here.
Right. I think they want permission to,
Yeah, close the area is kind of vague. Like, are they closing the
well,
road?
allow for parking, allow for staging, unloading of the band equipment, the governor if he's coming, that kind of thing, but, I don't know. Fire departments do it all the time, and I assume Charlie knows how to do this, but he is asking, they do wanna have a celebration at the bridge, and there's plenty of parking there.
Right.
Whether you keep the road open for emergency purposes, which I assume needs to be done anyway.
Yeah, it was that.
Yeah.
But you also notify Keene Mutual, you notify Rescue, you notify the police powers that be that there's gonna be a clog on the road on that side at the bridge, and if you wanna get through, you might be smarter to go around. If you need to
Yeah,
get through
because in
it,
the-
but I don't know.
And the flyer says parking along the Riverside State Forest Road across the West River from Route 30. Access parking via the bridge across Townshend Dam or via State Forest Road off Route 30 south of Hornbyville. So it sounds like they literally want people for the,
To park on the road.
to park on the road. But that wouldn't be the. Yeah, I think they were gonna put, Stacy, I recall, they were gonna put staging at the end of the road for whoever the person was that was speaking this.
That was the author,
Yeah,
yeah.
was
Robert
actually going to
McCullough.
speak at the end of the bridge, which is what they're asking, to close the road down during that time that he was supposed to speak. But we could certainly get more details, but it's coming up pretty darn fast.
Well, I'm sure they wanna get flyers out, in fact, they already have them up, so.
I mean, I'm fine with it as long as it's legal.
Anyone else?
I mean, you could require them to maintain a corridor
Travel corridor?
for emergency vehicles.
Well, how about just for any vehicle?
You can require them to keep the corridor for anything.
I mean, I highly
No,
doubt it.
proper
I mean, it's
signs.
pretty hard to park cars so that no other car can go by if they're parking.
If you do it smartly. No, I agree. I mean, most people park so you can get in and out.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe we should
Even-
use
even-
common sense and just say, hey, just keep the road open and do what you want on the
Yeah,
side of
because
it.
they're gonna say you get
No, there was something that was
state
gonna be
cars
in the
and all
road.
that stuff, this guys, you know, that use that road.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if during that invocation with the staging that he was talking, if they don't want to close that corner right there, just so that people can stand at the end of the bridge, in
And
the
listen to
road,
it.
and listen to it, and basically,
As I recall, the discussion, it was a long time ago.
it was, and it's not clear in the letter, and I didn't actually factor through the letter entirely specifically.
Well, we've
We can
got,
certainly find out.
the date's the 23rd of July, so we can certainly find out before the next meeting, specifically what they want to close them for how long. Because just following up on that, we received a notification from the Townshend Historical Society that we are invited to celebrate the restoration of Scott Covered Bridge in Townsend on Sunday, July 23rd, 2017, from 4 to 8 p.m. on the bridge. The festivities, sponsored jointly by the Townshend Historical Society, West River Community Project, and the Community Help and Action, will begin promptly at 4 p.m. with a ribbon cutting ceremony, followed by the recognition of the key participants in the project and a talk by Robert McCullough from the University of Vermont, professor of historic preservation and author of Vermont Crossings, a history of Vermont bridges. An old-fashioned potluck supper and square dancing on the bridge will follow. Details about the event are included in the attached flyer, which I think is already up and around town. We greatly appreciate the federal and state funding which underwrote the cost of the project and the efforts of the many people who brought the restoration and preservation of Townsend's historic Scott Bridge to completion. Sincerely, Robert Grenier, President.
What they've got on this copy of the letter I got here, they wanna close it for 3/4 of an hour.
Right,
Yeah,
For the ribbon cutting.
yeah,
and I think that was also for the speech, yeah.
yeah, that sounds right.
But we can certainly follow up on that if you wanna get specifics from the Historic Society as to what's going to be closed and exactly for how long.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that makes sense.
Okay, could you ask Charlie, please, to clarify?
I'm sure there'll be fire trucks there. They're gonna have a barbecue on the bridge.
We're gonna barbecue the bridge?
We're gonna have-
After how much money we just spent to rebuild it, we're gonna barbecue the bridge.
It's been treated with normal charge.
Oh, good.
And termites?
I understood they wanted to have a dance in it, but the state said no.
Well, that's what that says.
Well, they say they're having a dance.
Just
They're
so
having-
there's a square dance in
We're
there.
having a dance. The Newtons are playing, Newton and,
Must be they changed it then, because at one time the state said they couldn't.
Yeah,
well, you know, you put $2.5 million in the bridge, you wanna go dance on it, you're gonna go dance on it. And,
Well, it says you can't drink on it either.
Yeah, I know, that's a little caveat at the end.
Yeah,
The listers won't be there.
You did not just say that, now
That's
because,
That's good to know too.
I'm not going then, jeez,
anyway,
can't drink a beer, what else?
we've
Wanna
already
have a
dealt with,
celebration?
we've already dealt with the communication with Christina Angel, that was what was given.
yep.
So then we need to first deal with, let's do Moss Linder from Grace Cottage. Dear Anita, please pass on our appreciation to the Townshend Selectboard for the use of the Commons at the starting point and finish line for the 8th annual Grace Cottage Spring into Health 5K walk and run. This year we had 135 people pre-register, 164 eventually signed up overall. It was a very successful event. The Common looked beautiful before and after. I can personally attest to that. I hope that you all found the Common looked great, and most especially after the event. We appreciate the ongoing relationship between the town of Townsend and Grace Cottage. Thank you again for your support and encouragement. Moss Linder.
Colin looks much better now, Tom's clean.
Okay, and I'm just making a pile of papers that we're gonna have to go through, because I'm not keeping track of who's what's going where.
Okay,
All right.
and we already did Christina Angel.
Yep.
Okay, so, yeah,
You still have Mary Meyer.
I know that. See,
Okay.
we got it on the additions.
All right.
I gave it to you.
Okay, dear Select Board, I recently received a notice from the Select Board in regard to the transfer station changes. I understand your problem in that you want to keep costs down for the town and its residents. You also state no business for commercial use of Townsend's compactor or recycling containers will be allowed. I believe Mary Meyer Corp. And Mary Grace, as taxpayers in Townsend, are paying our share of the transfer station operating costs, but you have taken away our use of transfer station access. We rarely use the compactor, but do occasionally use recycling for our old catalogs. I personally, and as a representative for my company, feel you should not take away that service. We may use it occasionally, but do not abuse its use. Therefore, I believe all taxpayers of the town of Townsend have the right to use that service, and I believe you should change your position on our use of the facility. Sincerely, Walter Meyer.
Not disagree.
You do it for one, you have to do it for everyone.
Well,
Well, the reason for the change in that notice in part was that when we were part of, we still are, Windham Solid Waste Management District, and when they were handling our recycling, the cost of transporting the recycling and processing it and all of that, hauling it from here, providing the dumpsters, was covered in our assessment, the 14, 15, whatever the cost of the assessment to belong to the district. Was now we are now we are contracting to have the recycling taken away. It costs us money to have somebody come up here and haul it away, and then we pay a tipping fee on top of that based on weight. In as much as those are tax dollars now that are funding that, then obviously the taxpayer has a right to use it, but the business use of it has historically been considerably greater than the homeowner use of the private individual use. So, I mean, that is why it was in there. It's now costing,
Right.
it's now no
Because
longer part of an
we're paying
assessment.
for each, it's not.
We're paying for each, and as a public service, that's one thing, but to serve a larger a corporate organization, a profit-making organization, is a little more than the taxpayers. I mean, if we had to take the high school's trash, for example,
Right.
we'd be hauling away cardboard every 3 days. So, that was the reason
Yeah, I
we
just-
discussed that.
well, we need to respond to
As
the letter.
policy.
We should probably respond to the letter, so,
In Brattleboro, no commercial,
no, they do no commercial in Brown.
no commercial. They have to contract that with an independent hauler. And the
Well,
thing,
yeah, I think the response would be that we appreciate your concern. However, we feel it's fiscally responsible not to take commercial trash.
Well, even if Mary Myers is very limited, and I trust that they are, and only use the recycling occasionally, if one were to say because they pay taxes, they're entitled to use it, one would have to say that Riverbend Market is entitled to use it.
Exactly.
And they would fill the cardboard every day.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have their own compactor down there and their own private, Riverbend would literally fill. I mean, there are some businesses that would undo us.
See, we went through this with the campgrounds, back when we did it a long time ago, and that's when it was on the taxpayer's roll, but then it got so that the attendant was right on the ball, and he started measuring it all up and charged them by the cubic yard, which it cost us, and then all of a sudden they decided that it was cheaper for them to have somebody pick it up.
Well, and again, this goes into, we're gonna be talking about it, the attendant's responsibilities and duties to make sure that this is for homeowners, if we're gonna relegate it to only individuals and not businesses that can use it. I do remember the day when the attendants would charge differentials or do the measurement on the truckload or whatever it was somebody was bringing in. But that's quite a while ago now.
All right, so again, we're right back to the fact that somebody should respond to the letter, should.
I can respond to the letter, but
If you would-
you need to decide what you want to say.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I was just providing the rationale for why that was in that flyer that we mailed out last week, or 10 days ago, whenever it was.
Seems like forever, really.
But that's why we went up on the price of the bags to cover some of
Well,
the.
it's to cover the hauling, I mean, one way or the other. And Windham Solid Waste is now charging for recycling. You can take your recycling into Windham Solid Waste, but they're gonna charge you a tipping fee for your paper and your bottles and cans and all of that, so. We're not charging anybody a tipping fee here, we're still open, but we're open for the residents, of the people of the
Well,
town. It's not
and
a tax
again-
Well,
rate.
you are really telling, because when you sell them the bags, that's a tipping fee.
Well, technically, that's what the law says, is
Oh, yeah,
is that
right.
it is not a burden, it's not a burden on the taxpayers, it is a pay-as-you-throw.
Right.
So whatever it is that you're throwing,
That's the way
you're
it is.
responsible for paying for. And as this law changes and more things are added that need to be disposed of, the more costly it gets. So, I think just.
Right, but the assumption is the people that are buying the purple bags and getting rid of their household trash are the ones who are doing the recycling. That there is that balance, that there aren't people that are just using the recycling, or that there are people who are just buying the bags at $3.50 a piece, but aren't dropping off cardboards and bottles for some reason or other, that they're paying the freight for the others who are doing the recycling. But if you have an organization, a large commercial organization that is only using the recycling, there is no fee that's being provided from them toward offsetting the costs
Right.
to the taxpayer on this. And I don't mean the taxpayer, I mean the pay-as-you-throw person who's buying the bags and paying the freight, so.
Okay, so do we want just a generic response back, thank you for your interest and a short explanation as to why.
As to the reasoning,
As to
yeah.
the commercial, the
Yeah, the
limits on
fact
the
that if we
commercial.
opened it up to commercial, it would cripple the town.
Well, it would be more than the town could handle.
Right.
We don't have the facility space, first of all, to really handle
All
any
right,
of the commercial.
here's a good example, Ronnie Greenwood. He brings a lot of, in the past, he brought a lot of cardboard up there. You mean telling him he can't no more?
Well,
No, if you're gonna let Walt Myers do it,
basically, we've said commercial businesses can't.
no, but I say, if you're gonna let Walt Myers do it, you're gonna have to do the same to all of them.
Well, I understand that, and when we went to the bags, it was a different thing. Back when our attendant was taking $2.50 or $1.50 or what, when he was taking cash, and people were bringing up trash in any bags or driving up with a truckload. When we changed to the bag system, a number of businesses that were using the compactor stopped using the compactor. The auction house, other places, because they weren't bagging it anymore. And they weren't coming up with a truckload of unsaleable stuff and throwing it in the compactor and paying a $10, $15, $20 fee. So, yeah, I think if
This
it's,
seems like
if it's
just a
not
further
commercial,
extension of that.
But that's just.
right, if it's not commercial, it's not commercial, and that includes everybody, but
But
obviously.
what I'm
includes-
saying is, the corrugated cardboard,
Yep,
you can't charge for that, but yet, You know, if they're not bringing the trash in, it should be going to the same place.
I don't disagree, I look at the business, most of the businesses in
No,
town
that's what I
are
say, that's
relatively
just
small.
something that I hadn't think, if you're gonna do one, you're gonna do them all.
I think you have to, I don't think that you can.
You can't make special exceptions.
I don't think you can. I mean, Rob runs a business, I assume that he's not bringing business stuff, and I don't know what he would have from his business to recycle, but
I'm
I'm
actually gonna go down and get everybody else's business stuff. I'm gonna bring it in on my personal time so that I can buck the system.
All right. So basically, let's get out some type of a thank you letter.
That's gonna take some work, but
explain.
we will work one
All right.
here in the next day or so.
All right, then moving on to old business, Craig did provide us with a new copy of the job description. It does have the weight
Yes.
restrictions added to that.
Number 3?
And one thing that we more or less approved, that we were gonna consider it, we more or less approved the general outline of it at the last meeting. We do need to actually adopt it, or approve it as the job
As the
description.
official.
Right, so that,
This was adopted in 2015, lock, stock, and barrel. I changed some things on it to update it a little bit, and then we just changed the weight, the ability to regularly lift 50 or so pounds, and so it becomes sort of a new document that would,
Right.
it would be good to.
Well, I would move that we adopt this as the description for the transfer station attendant job.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on this? No, hearing none. All those in favor of adopting this document as the transfer station job attendant description, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So with that in mind, now that we have somebody to work there, so to speak, and we have defined what that's supposed to be doing, what needs to happen out of the transfer station prior to July 1st? I believe the bins are all set up.
And there's the informational meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow night.
There's an informational meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock, where Sue Benoit is gonna come up from Windham Solid Waste. I'm not really sure what she's doing, she's just doing it in every town,
Oh.
to discuss it with transfer station attendants and other interested parties. She wants to have a composting meeting sometime early in July, that was supposed to happen in May, June, but it is now in July.
Yeah.
To help educate people on private composting and on how they compost down in Brattleboro and what we can do here to help feed their stream. That having been said, this is something that she's tried to make an appointment in every town to talk to select board members, planning commission members, the transfer station attendants about some of the changes in the law and so on and so forth. To the best of my knowledge, and I will find out for you, and I haven't done it yet, but to the best of my knowledge, Triple T takes everything that is recyclable, which is plastics 1 through 6, all of it.
Oh, that's good.
But I don't have that in writing at this point.
Okay.
But we'll try to get that. And,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I will make note of the fact that the town clerk's office is giving out the food scrap bags.
Oh,
There is interest in the
Good.
biodegradable food scraps. So we need to have that, do we know when that container's coming, that roll container?
They're on order, if we get, and we've got a couple of them on order, we'll take what we can get when we get them. We do have to pay a matching. The cart is nothing but a wheeled cart. I mean, it's a 45-gallon barrel with a lid on the top of it. It is lockable. I don't know how bear-proof it truly is, but it is on wheels. We do need to separate out the food bags and then put them in the compactor
At the end.
at a separate time, right, so they don't get busted up, but they will go in the compactor for transport.
So
But
they get
hopefully-
busted up,
hopefully-
So that they get busted up all at the same time.
Yeah,
They get
it's
busted
all in
up
one
at the
place.
same time.
Okay.
But we wanna make sure that we separate it out, because the attendant needs to take those compostable bags and sort of make sure that there's only food in them, because if people start putting household trash in them, the whole system's gonna just fall apart.
Yep.
So,
So who's gonna be here at 4 o'clock tomorrow?
I'll be here.
I'll be there, yeah, I think
It's
it's gonna
at
be,
the
it's gonna
transfer
be at
station.
I'm gonna make sure it's at the station, it should be at the, because Arnold's working. I believe Michelle Brooks will be there, I notified Mike and Gerard, the people who signed up for backup. Transfer station attendant. I'll be there and we'll just see. I don't think it's gonna take more than 20 minutes, half an hour. I mean, it's pretty
And will
straightforward.
Arnold get this at that time?
He will.
I'll give it to him.
Yeah, we'll make sure that he gets a copy of that with a new adopted
And
date.
I'll be there, so
A new adopted date, I'll get.
just
it.
make sure I explain it to him, so.
Give
we're
him
all-
2 copies, one for him to sign for his file and one for him to take home.
Yep. Can you make,
Yeah, I'll get it adopted on here by the board and a date. And the other thing I want to bring in, and we'll discuss probably tomorrow, is the passing out of literature, the compostable bags, how we're gonna work those.
Yep.
He'll be distributing them and how he can help to get those hang tags on the mirrors of cars. Starting pretty soon, so maybe Saturday we can start that with him, but I'll be out to talk to him.
I was gonna say that we need to start having the hang tags out there on the weekend.
Right, we've given out about 100 of them right now, but he needs to make sure that as people pull in June and the beginning of July, that they make sure they've got one.
Now, is he gonna have a list of the residents of Townsend?
Yeah, there is a list being kept, as you signed off for your number.
Yeah, there's a list being kept. Is there a list being kept or not?
Yes, there's a list being kept.
Is it gonna be, continue to be kept?
The only
Is your
issue,
name under 69?
Yes.
There it is, you're on the list.
the only issue with the list is, we've already run into this once, is we had a resident of the town of Newfane come in and pick up 2 hang tags, one for a Townsend resident and one for the residents in Newfane, which means that we're most probably taking Newfane trash.
Isn't that what I just asked 2 seconds ago? If we're giving tags to Townsend residents, or are we taking?
Yeah, this whole thing kind of turned into do we do it by voter checklist? Do we do it by residential? Do we do it off the grand list? How do we want to do this? Well, it just turned out that you're going to sign your name and pick a number, and there we are. So we can cross-reference it, but that list can be photocopied. The first 100 names can be photocopied, and we can take a new stack of numbers, like 250 up to 350 or something, and drop them off up in the shed up there, and have Arnold keep a list, and then we can do some comparisons. And if people are picking up more than one, then we can call them up, or we can track them down and ask them why they're doing that. Because it really should be 1 tag per household. It's a movable decal, so to speak.
Well,
And we can then check it, we can
And
back check that
I
list
do understand,
against.
you want one for my wife's car, you want one for my truck, but then it gets into everybody, you're passing them out by the cars, and that doesn't really work.
And in this particular case, the resident that has one from Newfane actually is a registered voter in the town of Townsend, and has been. So that, again, you start crossing all these lines. Do they own property? Are they a registered voter? Are they?
But Townshend doesn't have Newfane doesn't have a compact.
No, they don't have service,
Right.
period.
But if they're registered voter, they're considered a resident of the town of Townsend.
Right, exactly. But they don't actually live here, which is bringing up that next story. Do we take Newfane trash? So to say.
If they're paying
What's
for the
your
bags.
definition of a resident?
If they're paying for the bags, but if they have a hang tag and they're using the recycling, then they're not paying for it. Whatever. It
And
gets.
then it just circles. And no matter what you do, it just circles.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I don't see what else is circles.
If you're single, you can, sign your
I seem
residence
to remember a meeting
anyway.
in which
We need to
volunteered to be
we
the
need-
trash cop.
Yeah, we
I
need a
remember
special
a couple different meetings of voting no on this.
Special
I
counsel.
remember that.
All right. Anyway, moving on. Please let us know what happens tomorrow, one way or another. We're going to need, yeah, that works. The governance committee did in fact send out, and I know Craig photocopied for all of you, a multi-page document. That was a summary from the committee.
Summary received.
And I'm just gonna let you deal with it, Will, because quite frankly, you're intimately involved with it. How's
Well,
that?
has everybody read it?
Yep.
No,
No.
doesn't look good today.
Okay, well then, should we hold off discussion until
I just got
next
it
meeting
tonight.
when everyone's
Don't
had
do
a
that.
chance
Yes,
to,
please.
Yeah, except everyone.
read it, go through it?
Let's put it off till the 11th. Well, that's a good idea.
Well, I mean, we could do it till the 25th if you want.
No, I don't. 25th especially, I don't.
Yeah, that's the bad day for Craig. We aren't gonna do anything on the 25th,
Okay.
just so you know. I mean, just in, the only comment I wanna have, or I wanna make,
No, you've got
I've
three
got a
or
lot of
four, you got
comments, I
3 or
just-
4.
no, the only one I want, is, it doesn't really give us a recommendation.
Right, and well, we did outline some recommended next steps. The part of the thing with the committee is we didn't want to take the decision out of the board's hands.
You can't.
Well, exactly, I know that, and we all knew that. And that's why we presented it as informational with some recommended things to consider going forward.
Well, you know, for example, one of the things that was part of the recommendation was coming up with job descriptions for every elected official in the town. And we're going to do this when and with what money, and because quite frankly, that's defining what the town clerk does, defining what the treasurer does, defining what the select board does, defining what the listers do.
And we fully understand that it's a bit of a moving target.
And, well, but there again, it would not be accomplished within the tenure of anybody on this board.
Well, no, what we were thinking is we'd start by having people write their own as a jumping off point, just to get, so that there's a sense of everybody in the building, everybody in town government knowing what the other parts of town government do, what they're required by statute to do, and what they actually do, which is, as we all know, often
Like I said, you
A bit more.
wouldn't like mine. You
No, I know.
would not like mine. But I was just kind of interested that was one of the recommendations, is that there be job descriptions for every elected official in town, and I was just trying to figure out how
it would happen, yeah.
how in God's name that would ever happen without
Absolutely, but-
hiring a consultant to come and actually do that.
If you look at the job, the statutory requirements of any of the elected positions, they are the minimum, these are your requirements.
Right, exactly.
The job then fills the entire
Exactly right.
balloon as to whatever is required.
absolutely.
Right, but you need to do these things. These are the 5 things that the
These are the
treasurer
minimum.
does, or
Right.
town clerk does.
Yep.
Maybe 8 or 10 or 12, but whatever. It's a very limited, very concise kind of thing. The job description for any individual is you fill the vacuum that you were hired to fill, basically.
Yeah.
And you compensate for the people who aren't doing what they were elected or hired to do. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, absolutely.
It takes a
Totally.
community to run, or a village or whatever, to run the show and run the government.
Exactly.
And it shifts from year to year. You get better at certain things, you find out that you can't.
Well, you also have different people who have different skills and different abilities.
And there's a change up at every town meeting, and there are change ups interim, so.
So the question becomes, when would you like to actually discuss the results of this committee? And number 2, would you like the committee to be in attendance when we discuss it?
I would-
I'll speak at once.
I would recommend that we have the committee in attendance.
So you want to do you want it formal or informal? You want to have a joint workshop? I mean, it's the easiest way to do it. You don't have minutes, you can put your feet on the table. And you warn it because you have a quorum of the board here and the public's invited.
Right.
They're not coming, so I mean,
I think that would make sense.
but I mean, then you can sit down
Have a
and
And then we
workshop.
can, we can hash it out a little bit.
instead of a formal, specific, somebody with a gavel in their hand trying to.
I haven't picked it up, I haven't touched it.
No, I'm just saying. So,
He took his headphones off anyway.
Yeah, I think a joint workshop
Yeah,
is
I'm just-
absolutely the
I'm
way.
making a
Better
suggestion. It's just that- Then you can have it on a Friday evening or a Thursday morning or whatever. I mean, you can do it any way you want.
Okay, so we want to discuss it with the committee in some type of a workshop, is that what we're saying?
That's what I think.
I'm throwing it out there as opposed to doing it at a formal select board meeting.
Right.
And you don't have to do Thursday morning.
Or,
And it can be for only those who are
If you do it
interested.
on a Friday night, I won't be here.
well, we haven't even got the.
No, but
Yeah, we've gotten near to
Craig
that.
Craig made that statement, so I thought I'd nip it in the bud.
So again, what's your,
Bring your own.
bring your own? Cool.
That office is too small.
Do you wanna have a discussion and workshop with the committee versus
Meet on.
trying to do it at the board
I
level?
think so.
Okay, so it seems to be the consensus overall consensus must be that we will do it as a workshop. So.
Close the road, do it on covered bridge.
That's right, we can do it in the middle of the square dance.
There you
That
go.
works. While we're barbecuing the bridge. What, when?
Now the
we-
question is when.
Well, but not just the workshop, the question is also when will everybody have a chance to thumb through it and understand the content?
Well, then it has to be coordinated with, if you're gonna have a joint meeting of 8 people or 10 or
Right.
whatever it amounts to, I mean, it has to be coordinated, so I don't think you can
Vacation
fix it.
Yes.
I don't think you
right.
can fix it
Summer,
anytime,
yeah.
you make suggestions, you look at calendars, you have Will orchestrate the whole thing since he's in charge of this. And there you are. He's going away for a while, other people probably
Yeah,
are
I'm
as
gonna be
well.
gone the
July.
second week of July.
That's a holiday weekend coming up, so.
July's just a bad month.
They're gonna say here's really a bad month.
It's just a bad month.
Everybody's, you
Well,
know,
does it
one
make
way or
sense
the
to-
other.
I mean, I don't wanna push it off too long, but
But we're gonna
I'll tell you
get,
what,
we're
I'll
gonna
get
get
in
in the
touch.
budget season, it's starting in September, so.
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
you get
We
taxes.
got
Get it done
taxes in
before
July. Get done before July?
Yeah,
Cool, Rob.
just put the hammer down.
Here's the
Thursday
hammer.
night.
Yeah, what, I don't care. It's not my decision. I don't care.
Can we start with, I will call everyone and get potential dates.
Let me just ask this question. Everyone is 3 people?
Well, the whole board.
No,
and
your
then
group, from your committee.
Four of us, yeah,
You're counting yourself,
Yeah.
so
Right,
three
yeah.
people.
And then
Yes.
4 of us.
and the 4 of you.
Well, 5 of
But he's
us.
gotta ask himself what he's doing too, so that's
So-
really
But he
four.
knows this is
Well, there could be a conflict there, so he may have.
I don't have to
recuse
ask
on both sides.
myself so
Yeah.
much as, you know.
I'm just,
And if both wills recused,
I just need to ask a couple questions. These 3 individuals,
Mhm.
how well they all work together?
I think we worked fairly well together.
The initial bumps have smoothed out?
Yeah.
Because what I don't want this to turn into is a gripe session.
No,
or-
I agree.
Or everybody's trying to go for the job themselves.
Right.
Okay, I want to make
I
sure that
totally
it's
agree.
controlled
Yep,
and nobody gets out of control.
yep.
and no minutes are kept that are posted online.
That's what hammers are for. I got a bigger one too.
Good.
He's got a bigger one than that though.
We're gonna put them on the table in the interim? or what are we doing?
Okay, so Will's gonna.
All right, I will get in touch with people this week and early next week
All right,
and see if I can find a day that works.
okay. Now, at the last meeting, I believe it was Steve and Rob that you were talking about reinstituting the purchase policy, and you wanted to see if you all have copies of it.
I have a couple here.
In your
We can
box?
make more if anybody needs something. I didn't pass a lot of them out. You've all seen them a dozen times, but.
And we had talked about reinstituting the policy, et cetera. And also looking at it under the light of the highway department and the job.
There was a question on equipment warrant about the purchase of tools, I
Right.
believe, that didn't really flow through a system and.
Yeah, it's the air gun.
That
the
sort
air
of
gun.
latitude, right, and it has been and continues to be an issue, large or small, it is an issue.
We get so involved in these issues that I never get to finish asking all my questions. How do we identify what's a town-owned tool versus what is a mechanic's or employee's tool? When we make a purchase, do we assign an asset tag, a town of Townsend asset tag to
We
that?
started doing that back in 2012, and it never morphed through there because we could never get an accurate inventory done. I've been pushing for having an inventory, town-wide inventory, all the computer systems by serial number, all the tools, that kind of thing. We live in a world where things are, people are pretty honest and things don't walk, but we do not have, for insurance purposes or otherwise, any kind of listing of the chainsaws and what the serial numbers are that we bought, or what power tools we buy, or what incidental wrenches, or what's under warranty, or how much these things cost, or where they end up. And that's a shame. Joe and I went out 3 years ago, did an inventory on the mezzanine in the shop and I had returned over $1,000 worth of oil filters that were for trucks that we'd gotten rid of half a decade before. Stuff just accumulates. Well, that kind of full-fledged inventory of tire chains, of plow blades, of everything in this building, we raised the library's insurance in 2010 from $50,000 to, I think, 200 and a quarter or something like that. $50,000, what we had insurance on the library, and that went back to like the late 1980s. People hadn't kept up with the insurance costs. The historic books in that library are worth more than 50 grand. The computer systems they had, the building itself. So anyway, yes, to answer your question, there is not a town-wide inventory of assets. Now that the schools have split out, we don't have to deal with the schools, but there wasn't a good one for the elementary school, and that was always a thorn in my side as well, because they kept buying new laptops for everybody. But we should have a registry, aside from the VIN numbers on the vehicles. We should have a registry, and when Michael Charles was here, advocate anything worth more than, say, 150 or 200 bucks. We should have serial numbers, we should have dates of purchase, we should have valuations. For insurance purposes, if not for something.
Yeah, some of the tools, wrenches and stuff, open in combination, there's no serial numbers or anything on it.
Oh, no, I do understand that, but if you buy a set of Craftsman
Oh,
tools,
yeah,
you
no,
know, this to this or something like that.
Right.
You buy a torque wrench for 400 bucks, by God, you know where it is, it's in and it should always be there. Things break, they break, and you use stuff hard. I mean, you know, you have vices get cracked and break because you're welding on them and stuff. That being said, you know, we have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Just the 32-foot ladder up there costs, I think, 300 bucks. I mean, and you don't realize it until you realize that the taxpayer owns assets that are worth a lot of money, all added up, or replacement costs. And we don't have that on file somewhere in a safe for the insurance company, should we have a drastic loss. The particular things that would be irreplaceable or would be forgotten in an effort need to be documented. Anyway, short answer to your question, no, we don't
That
have
was the
inventory.
short answer.
No, and
See, this is why I forget my next question.
There's
I'll be driving home in a half
Right.
hour, hopefully, and say, oh shit, I wanted to ask him about this.
Yeah, but you can't
But
say shit on camera,
we-
so.
no, but like that, in a case like that, you still should have I don't care if it's just a straight T, stamp it, TT, Town of Townshend.
I'm the assistant to the select board. If the select board doesn't want an inventory, I have no authority to go make one.
No,
If you don't have your foreman make one, then you can assign me to make it. But if you don't assign me to make it, then you're not gonna have one unless you go do it yourself.
I realize that.
Okay.
We always used to have them marked, and whoever they bought.
Okay, I've been an advocate of this because it's the world I come from. As a purchasing agent, you keep track of what you've got behind a locked cage.
But you go back and look in the town report and everything was listed, drill or whatever it was.
Yeah. And the little stuff you ignore. But, you know, I mean, the bigger stuff, you start at the top and work your way down until you get a system in place.
Okay. Number 2, remember?
You need to make a list. Get your,
Yeah,
we're gonna
Advil.
get get them a BlackBerry.
Okay, well, anyway, this is the purchase policy. If we wanted to actually reintroduce it and make it effective, there's a couple of things that we'd have to come to terms with. Number one, this takes an immense amount of time, because of the games that are being played in the background for Craig to follow through on.
You're about to introduce this to the library if they're gonna bid everything out. I mean, it's a segue
It's a
into,
town water.
everybody has to play or,
So, I mean, this is fairly time consuming to sit down and do the purchase orders for every one of the warrants that are there, because technically now, anything that comes into that folder better bloody well have a purchase order attached to it, or we aren't gonna pay it.
Right.
I mean, that's how
Right.
this has to work, if we're going to go
That's
to
the
that
only way it will
extent.
work.
Well,
Exactly.
If Craig's gonna issue the PO number, he's gonna have a spreadsheet in his office. And he's gonna issue a PO number to a tree company with a number assigned to it, a dollar amount.
right.
And when that invoice comes in, it's gotta match up to that dollar amount, or it doesn't get paid. And there's other criteria that we can lay out.
There were two reasons for doing this. One, I became a stopgap, and Kathy remembers this, and probably Irv does too. I know Rob does from when he was first here. But it used to take an inordinate amount of time to go through the warrants. I mean, they were looked at with a fine tooth comb on Saturday mornings or Friday afternoons. They were very, very carefully looked at. One of the things about bringing in the purchase policy was that trust went to me. I could then flag stuff for you. 80% of this, you don't really need, you can sign off on it, it's okay. But where there are payroll discrepancies, where there are purchasing, and I have an eye for interesting tire chains, for interesting purchases that flag, that I wanna bring to your attention because I question whether they fit into a policy or not. Then I become sort of a stopgap. I also become someone for whom you can blame if we contract with a tree company and they don't perform, and I've done that independent of, because I have that, according to this policy at any rate, you've extended that certain amount of latitude and authority to me to act on behalf of you in instances where purchases need to be made. If I tell you I've got 3 bids and show you the 3 bids, I've been on the internet, whatever. If I'm making that decision that we're gonna buy an Ingersoll Rand impact gun from Northern Hydraulics or from Sears, then I make that decision on your behalf. And even though you might be able to find it, if you spend 15 minutes, $50 cheaper than I did, at least I made that effort. And what I'm trying to say is that I become that stopgap, but I also become somebody that is answerable to you for everything that happens in that warrant book. I mean, short of payroll and
Taxes.
yeah. And then there's, there's a limit below which $150, $100, everyday expenses. It's just too long, it's just too difficult to keep track of, too much stuff.
Right.
But for the big purchases, you want that protection. I want that protection for the taxpayer.
What's considered big purchases?
Well, they're listed
I
there as
see you
major,
have,
ordinary,
you know,
yeah.
You know, I
It
mean,
depends on,
none
it
of
depends
them
on where
say
you
big.
certainly over $1,000. I would say my key is over $100. If you can't, if you don't have time to shop for something over $100, then that's down where the pennies watch themselves. I mean, if you
No,
pay
but I
attention.
mean, is your jurisdiction on what to buy and what not to buy, when does that stop as far as this definition A, B, C, D, E?
I'd have to look at that or look at the next page. Kathy may remember, we were doing anything that was, I know it was anything over 1,000. I thought it was anything over 500.
No, it's over that.
Was it over 1,000? I was certainly keeping track on anything over, because everything over a certain amount, I think it was over, I needed a purchase order number. And therefore Kurt would have to call me or somebody would have to say, I want to spend $250 on this, on $300 on whatever, and I would have to give them a purchase order number. We had purchase order numbers for diesel fuel. I mean, and that's an everyday, you're gonna get it every week, but we had a number that would go with the purchase of that. And we would line up a bill with that run. And on that purchase order would be a budget amount that the select board said, we're gonna spend $40,000 on diesel fuel. As we hit the $38,000 mark, I could bring it to your attention. We're only gonna spend so much on sand, that's fine, so Sosimo could deliver anytime Kurt calls him. But once you get up to that amount of tonnage or yardage or whatever you guys set your limits on, then I can flag that, bring it to you, because I'm keeping a tally on one side of the computer that allows me to do that. But it's entirely arbitrary, I mean, it's not arbitrary, it's up to the board where you set that limit. That people have a certain amount of trusted authority to spend for their department, if they are heads of their department, or if they have a quorum decision of the members of that department, to spend up to X number of dollars with impunity.
Yep, one place I work, if you had a purchase order, I don't give a damn if it was $2. You had to have a purchase order number.
Well, that's fine, but you need somebody who's full-time, if you're gonna be looking at the $2 spending, because
No.
Mike Bill spends more on postage in a month than I can keep purchase order numbers on. And those are reimbursables, and that's understandable. People need to be able to walk across the street with petty cash and
Get stamps.
spend $20 on stamps. And if it's in-house, that's one thing. If it's the library or the fire department or the cemetery, and you're getting into, if I have to travel up to the garage and go 15 rounds with personnel, it gets, you know what I mean. So anyway, I mean, it's up to you where you set that limit.
If you leave it at $20 or $25, all they gotta call is 2 or 3 times.
Right, which is
Get the
exactly
same
what they did.
goddamn thing. It's just waste of time.
Well, and that's what had happened. We set it up that they needed, everybody needed a purchase order for everything. So I need a box of shop rags for $10, and I was supposed to shop that out. And then 15 minutes later, it was something else, a can of Gojo hand cleaner, and then it was something. I mean, it just became nickel and dime until,
Just constant.
It was constant. The
Like
phone
it's a
would
full-time job.
Phone
Answering the
would-
phone and writing purchase orders.
Right. So then it was, well, if it's over $100, and then the purchases were going through, you remember, they were writing their own purchase orders for $93, $97. And then 15 minutes later, they wrote another one for 93 or 97. I mean, and it became this little game, and we played it for a while, and then we didn't play it anymore. And I'm not complaining, I just do, I think that it has had a positive impact. I do think that spending is far more under control than it was 3 or 4 years ago, and because of this policy in part, I do think it can be tightened up. The boards have tightened up their budgets, and I do think things are much better attended and much more closely watched than they used to be. But I do think there's always room for improvement. And it's not a business where you see the bottom line at the end of the year, but there is a feeling that the taxpayer is an unlimited resource of money to spend. If you need it, you buy it. Anyway,
So, there again, the policies here, it's been approved by the select board. We can put the teeth back in it and start mandating that everything that's in that folder that's over $100 basically has a number
Has a PO.
attached to it.
and it's not going to apply to the library or the fire, those departments that have their own autonomous sovereign authorities, boards,
Yeah.
directors. And we had issues, obviously, with various elected officials who believe they have autonomy and they have a budget that's approved by the taxpayer, therefore. So, I mean, there are lines that, there's politics involved, and some care that, but certainly for the select board's employees, this is something that you can control. And I am less and less in the finance office, so my time opens up a little more and more for those. But it is something that the board has to take seriously, or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, it's even worse than what you got now.
Right.
Right.
So do you wanna chew on it? What would you like to do with it?
And this policy can be changed. This is just a boilerplate.
Right.
Right,
It morphed off of other ones.
I like the
There are
idea
details.
of taking a week to read it through carefully and consider it before trying to adopt it right now.
It's already adopted.
But I mean,
It is in effect right now.
Right.
It just
Because
needs
it's
some
never
new
been rescinded.
dentures.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Well, and that's fine. And we have some things to do in the next couple of weeks with closing out the year and finding out where we're going with an audit and setting tax rates and all that. So, but it is something to think about as we start a new budget.
Okay.
Well, maybe we should all look at it, get it written and prepare
Have it
to
on the
start
next
July
agenda?
1st.
I said have it on the next agenda or,
Well, if you're gonna prepare to start it on July 1st, today being June 27th.
yeah, you.
Right.
You've
Right.
got until Monday. It's not.
How did that happen?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
how
why
that
you
happened.
wouldn't be able to start July 1st.
I
No,
don't know. I got a vegetable garden to plant yet. So
You're a little late.
Yeah,
Dutton's.
tell me about it.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so you want to chew on it and then just get back with thoughts and how far you'd like to take this, because it would take a while to put it back into effect. All right, then moving on, you also received, and I don't have a clue where my copy is, a copy of the draft smoking policy, which is.
Yep.
You actually, I gave you two. I made them,
I don't even know where mine is.
I'm sorry, did you get one of those, John? Thought I gave you. Oh, this is
Thank you.
Here you go. And,
Well, that's only one of them, no, it isn't.
You have two, and actually it's both 2 pages to show you that the one that says Townsend at the top is backed up by one that says somebody else stapled to it, right behind it.
Yeah.
So basically it's a carbon copy, and there are 2 different ones there, there are a dozen that are available, I've got a few more here. The one for the state of Vermont is like 18 pages long. I decided not to retype that one, and these were 2 relatively short ones, and fairly common one. Let me see what I got.
Okay.
It's a little more.
Yeah, I just can't, I had it in the hot little ring.
Mine isn't good enough.
No, it's not it, I
Take it
have
out.
one, it's stuck.
Which one was this?
You can get another here.
Oh, it's possible, this could be anywhere, Irv. No, it's paving, it's paving bid,
Okay.
it's put together with paving
Yeah,
bid,
this one
just
here.
like yours. Maybe mine's still in my box? Did I not take it home? I might not have taken that one home.
I can certainly give you mine here if you want. Hold on a second.
Well, that's some in there. And that's where it stops. The fact that I kept,
I'll make a
Okay,
copy.
thank you. the fact that I kept track of all this papers except for that, seemed to be doing okay. Well, that's all correspondence. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Just absolutely bizarre.
You probably, that was why my, purchase order thing,
Oh, you didn't get one of those?
I didn't get one.
I had to cheat to get them to use the book.
Okay, I'm gonna give you that. And if you want that,
Yeah.
I'd like that one back anyway. The backup,
Okay.
eventually, but it goes, and I'll give you another one here as soon as Joe's done reading it. Actually, you're reading the one from Aldo. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna put your originals then on the clipboard. I'll put your originals on the clipboard, the backups. So they don't get lost in the pile of paper.
Here's the backup for that one, and you got a Townsend comment. And like I said, these aren't by any means exhaustive. I have a draft here for, this is kind of Londonderry's draft. You want to see that? That's the one the state uses. So that's the one that was adopted by the state. That's driven all this. We do have a new sign on the wall that says we're 100% compliant. Okay, and there goes Kathy's on the same page.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyway. It's pretty much what you might want it to be. You can make it. They all seem to do the same thing. They cite some rationale and some history in order to establish a reason for doing this. The health of the employee and citizen. Citing the Surgeon General, citing environmental protection in one case. Certainly citing the Vermont legislature in 2009.
Those ones.
Look at that. There we go. Look at that one. It's that big. The one that says whereas, I can't remember who I copied that one from, but that does say that this policy applies to all employees, clients, contractors, and visitors, which is standard, but smoking may only occur at a reasonable distance, say, I'm going up this line here.
So we really need to put in contractors and everything else. I mean, if we contract somebody, just do the job.
This one that says the whereas is smoking strictly prohibited within all town-owned vehicles and within all town, let's see, one of these is, includes smokeless tobacco. It's the one that doesn't have whereas on it. Okay, so smokeless tobacco is prohibited in town vehicles and on town property. So you can't chew on a porch either, or in a dump truck.
We should
And
probably.
that was important to some people that I talked to about it, that it's not just smoking. It's a can of tobacco juice on the desk at the transfer station.
Yeah, we should also include e-cigarettes.
This one does, doesn't it?
I don't think either of them do.
No,
I
I
don't
think it
think so.
does.
It says right here, use of smokeless tobacco product is strictly prohibited within all town-owned vehicles and within all town-owned buildings, including town hall, library, fire station, town garage.
The e-cigarette is not a tobacco product.
Right.
That's why.
Smokeless tobacco, what is it? Is it a smokeless tobacco product?
No,
It's on, it's not.
Smokeless
It's not
tobacco,
made
yeah,
of
smokeless
tobacco.
tobacco is the chew and the
Is
snuff
chew
and
and-
snuff and whatever else.
Yeah.
But yes, e-cigarettes is.
we should amend it. if we're gonna without
Somebody
it.
does list e-cigarettes.
Yeah, I forget there was a ton, I forget which one.
So, I mean, that can be included in any one of these.
Yeah, it's the one, was it Londonderry? Where they had the definition of tobacco products.
Oh, it could be, I just gave you the draft for London, Dairy. It's got a
Yeah,
draft
yeah,
on it,
yeah.
oh, you passed it down,
It's,
okay.
yeah, it's in
Yeah,
here.
okay, so that one has a paragraph or a
Yeah.
sentence or two on
That
it.
addresses it.
Yeah, and I don't think that's inappropriate either.
No, I don't.
Both of these, I think I put in a reasonable distance being approximately
30
30
feet.
feet. It's 36 feet from the porch to the sidewalk out there, if anybody wants to know.
So we should make it 50 feet.
50 feet puts
It's
them,
in the middle of the road.
No, no, no.
yeah, it puts them on school property, Steve, it puts them on school property. Then we have a conflict.
36 feet, 6 inches.
I mean, Rob, is that gonna solve what we wanted to solve? No, you're either standing on the steps or you take a few more steps down the sidewalk, you're still smoking in front of the building.
And I gotta borrow an umbrella if you're going down the sidewalk.
You should be able to catch them with your car. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, you're probably never gonna detour them from smoking somewhere. They'll be over next door smoking behind that house. I don't know. 50 feet, 30 feet. I mean, if we make it far enough, they'll have a hard time getting out there and back.
Yeah, but you remember, you also have to somewhat
that?
enforce it.
Right.
Be heading home.
Yeah, that's a good question. How is this enforced?
You know, and I was the one who first came up that made the mention, I don't wanna be around on town meeting day. Because my husband asked me today, who's going to enforce it at town meeting?
Right.
Because every break, you know, and that's gonna be an issue. It's something to think about before we
Right.
take this step.
We need to hire like a bouncer or something.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Both on the porch.
Well, moving the ashtray that's out there is one thing,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
acceptable thing. In any case, enforcement is something that just sort of follows along. People, once they know the rules, you post a few signs, you remind a few people, and people can be conscientious, they get lazy and they forget, and they don't think that other people are paying attention. Having been a smoker for most of my life, I'm well aware of it, very conscious of other people, but I ignored them on regular occasion, because you get lazy about it. You know, and follow your own dictates. That having been said, you see a sign, or you can't get on an airplane or a bus or something else, and, you know,
Right.
it reminds you.
It's not like this is a brand new concept.
No.
Well, the
By
question
any
becomes,
stretch.
It makes you feel guilty, it makes you feel, you know, it singles you out, puts you in the spotlight.
Yeah, a little bit.
what would you like to do with either of the policies? Would you like to?
I mean, I could get you more drafts if you wanna cobble something together that's Townsend town, or we can make one of these work. I mean, you can borrow it from somebody else, it's fine, they're pretty generic.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense. You can see the one from whichever one it is there, it's pretty informal. The originals, I think it's Westminster's. Relatively informal, but. And by law, you're already a smoke-free, you're part of the state government.
Right.
You're governed by the, you know, the Vermont statutes.
I mean, I think Will makes a good point with the, what did you say, it was e-cigarette?
E-cigarette. Yeah.
You know, maybe add that in and adopt the policy,
Yeah.
with that included.
Do you have a preference of the two that you did up?
I think the one is a little whereas heavy. But that's just stylistic. I mean, they both seem the same, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, but the one that does the whereas, you know, this specifically denotes the vehicles as well, which is something that they think we'd probably want.
No, they both do.
It says, yeah, it says, okay,
Yeah.
autonomous vehicle.
Well, you can make sure that either one you pick, and whichever one you write, does include what you want it to include. And
Right.
some of the ones that are reading are very specific, they list every piece of property they have in town, including the gazebo and the transfer station and the yard, you know, around the recycling bins and the salt shed and all that. Others are fairly, you know, generic. try to be conscientious of other people, and stay away from the ventilating system.
Yeah.
No smoking in the cemeteries.
So what's your pleasure?
I would make a motion to adopt the no smoking policy, the first one, with the inclusion of the e-cigarette, if, or any other thing. I don't really,
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with e-cigarettes and stuff, so.
The first one being the one without the whereases.
Yes.
Yes.
So with the one
Yeah.
addition of
Can
the
I see
cigarettes.
the other two drafts?
In any other form of smoking apparatus, I guess, I don't know.
And there's Hardwick. And this is the states. Oh, that's London.
Yeah, I would amend that to add, definitions, tobacco products here refers to any, probably, it's on the Londonderry draft, but.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get you a yellow highlighter.
No.
Tell me what you want me to do.
It's tobacco products in quotes here refers to any product designed for the consumption of tobacco or tobacco substitutes,
So you want an actual definition in here?
including but not limited to cigarettes, cigars, pipes, snuff, chewing tobacco, e-cigarettes, or other electronic devices made for inhaling nicotine or other vapor.
So no,
Snuff.
no,
Medical.
no,
Bongs?
steam inhalers,
Vaporizers?
vaporizers, yeah.
Fix vapor.
You can't have Vicks Vapor anymore, not when you're in town, no. You leave your Vicks at home.
They're doing, put that on clipboard.
And your ambulance driver is bringing nitrous oxide? Or whatever.
Yeah, that on it.
If I have a mask and there's a tube, I mean, can I inhale when they come in the door?
No,
As long as there's no vapor.
Don't inhale.
I don't inhale.
Well, there could be gas, just no vapor.
Don't inhale. Anyway, so the motion on the table is to adopt,
I need a second. I gotta, unless we'll second it.
I'll second.
Somebody, second, yeah.
to adopt the policy with the addition of the definitions of tobacco products. Is there any further discussion on that?
One, or do we wanna do something with the footage?
They both said for 30 feet. Is 30 feet fine, or do you want to go further, or do you want to?
Like I said, it's 36 foot sidewalk out there. Out here, I have no idea about that.
What I initially brought up at the last meeting was the property is smoke-free. That's what I brought up, that's what I was going for.
Seconded.
I don't think 30 feet changes anything that we're.
Okay, but then
right now.
we're gonna get into a definition. I'm just being an advocate here. Definition of properties that include the town common, Taft Meadows, cemeteries,
Well, you didn't list those in here.
Right.
You listed the library, you listed the town hall,
right?
the property of these buildings.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
That's where I was going.
yeah, okay, no, that's fine, that's fine.
I mean, this is 2017.
Yep.
It's happening in a lot of places. I smoked for 35 years. I know what it's all about, but it's where we're going.
So in other words, we're prohibiting it on
Okay, so this
off the sidewalks is about what it amounts to.
this would read, products are strictly prohibited within all town-owned vehicles and within all town-owned buildings, including the town hall, library, fire station, and town garage, etc., and associated properties or adjacent property, or town properties,
Property that that building sits on.
okay, and their property.
And their properties, there you go.
Okay, that limits it to them,
Right.
okay. And their properties.
Okay,
Now, I don't know if everybody wants to go that way, but
Okay,
that's.
no, I'm making a note here. And I'll need a copy of that definition.
It's on the
Insert.
It's on the
clipboard. It's
Then
highlighted.
draw a little arrow as to where it's gonna be inserted into this text. And you get rid of the other texts.
Well,
I
you
guess
want
it's
it
gonna be
inserted.
inserted.
You do well making your own mind up on where to assert.
Yeah, no, I just don't want to get this more than they
Get all technical all of a sudden. out
I'll
of
find a
nowhere.
place to put it.
Yes. Somewhere between 1 and 2.
Right, so it's
We'll
a-
find it, we'll find it,
And-
we'll find
I
it.
mean, you can probably take out the paragraph that in 1993, the EPA classified environmental tobacco smoke. because
Okay.
I think that's fairly common knowledge at this point.
You never know. It's kind of up here in the hills.
Anyway, is there any other additions or corrections or language changes that you wanna make to this draft?
No, works for me.
All right, then can you have a final?
Need a vote, but yes, I'll have a final for you.
Okay, so we need to vote on whether or not to produce the policy so that at the next meeting we can officially warn it, because we can't post it
Right.
as, unless you wanna just.
Well,
leave it to Greg to
it's
make those
adopted, it's
changes.
adopted as soon as you sign it. But then there's because it's policy,
There's a warning period, right?
Right.
there's a period at which people can petition.
So, do you wanna go ahead and adopt it tonight and have Greg make the
Adopt it
changes?
as drafted, I'll make sure you all get a copy. If you don't like your copy, you can unadopt it. But it's gonna include the definition that Will brought up.
We're gonna take them back, we don't wanna take these ones. So
Well, we don't really have to take it back, we can modify it.
Right.
And it's gonna
Okay.
include the yardage,
Okay,
the yardage.
so is that what we want to do, is adopt and then we'll warn it the next meeting?
Sure.
All right,
Yep.
so all those in favor of adopting the policy as we have discussed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. There was a motion on the table, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
Yes.
Ron
Okay.
made a motion. Seconded by Will.
I hope so. We just voted on it. And then next agenda, we'll need to go ahead and warn this.
Yep.
For the required statutory amount of time. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the state police contract. It begins and ends in July. And we have a proposed contract from the Vermont State Police for the contract not to exceed $20,000, which was voted on at town meeting. So I would entertain a motion to, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of signing the contract for an amount not to exceed $20,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So, I will sign that in a minute. And we have a contract from Windham County Humane Society for contract for animal holding. And this basically allows the constables or whomever to take animals down to be
I
held.
got a question about that. They're getting public money. You never see them, any of the minutes when they're having the meetings or anything advertised. According to law, that, the way I understand it, it's public money, like the town of Townshend is paying, or Brattleboro, or whoever.
We on the state police or the?
Or on Humane.
Humane
Yeah,
Society.
yeah.
But you never see when they have a meeting or advertised or a thing.
I don't either. We don't get an email on that, and I'll
Yeah.
agree with you. I never look for it, but we don't get one. It's not like
But
we're
I know
participating.
that, but the thing is, I understand, as long as they accept public money, they're supposed, no different than the select board has to advertise when the meetings are, and
Yeah, but aren't we just
have an agenda and the whole works.
contracting with them? Like, are they a board or are they? What's
Yeah,
their
yeah.
what's their structure?
The Humane Society is run by a board of
Oh, yeah,
directors.
they
yes.
have
okay.
board of directors.
Well,
So they have to have an annual
the state
meeting.
legislators don't warn their meetings either, and they actually don't keep minutes of them. But we won't go there. Yeah, I don't, but then I don't get a newspaper anyway, so I wouldn't see that. But they don't act, I mean, they don't announce it like public,
Right.
or even a private with state funding, or municipal funding, public funding.
Yeah, because you're gonna say it's public, town of Brattleboro uses them, like
Well,
Townsend
it's
uses
a
them.
county, right, so when,
Right.
You got no idea when anything's happening or anything with.
well, that could certainly be addressed with the director. and
Yeah, no, that's,
We have a number we could.
that's the only thing, but I understood if it was public money, that it's supposed to be, in other words, the meetings are supposed to be posted and warned.
Maybe they don't.
Kathy could nominate you as our Townsend's representative to the Humane Society. Yeah, anyway,
Well,
we can certainly find out.
A lot of exclusions there.
yeah.
We're just gonna check for $25 from them, so somebody held something.
Yeah, basically, is the town will pay them a flat fee of $300 to service the impoundment facility.
think that's
The town will set impoundment fees to be paid by the owners. In the event that a town animal requires veterinary care within the 5-day legal hold period, the services will be approved by the town, except for emergency treatment during hours when the town is not available. Any animal not claimed within 5 business days of acceptance at the shelter shall be considered released to the shelter with their discretion regarding release or disposal. And it just keeps going on. But anyway, it's so that we have someplace, the constables and.
So that we don't have to keep our
Yeah,
own
no, I
dog.
know.
Have someplace to put these animals, that everything is safe, that everybody knows where they can go, in the event that something happens. So that's what the contract is for, it's a $300 contract.
Did we use them all last year?
Yes. I would have to ask Warren how many times, but I'm gonna say 3 or 4 maybe.
We
And
did-
the way I've looked at this, having been somebody who's been involved with them, and it's an expenditure of $300. I think it used to be $200. I look at it as cheap insurance, because if you take somebody's animal, even if you are the constable and that animal's on your porch or in your basement, suddenly you're liable for anything that happens to that
exactly
animal.
right.
And people can basically sue you if it gets hurt or if it goes into, has an epileptic fit or something. You have a place to take it, they will care for it. They're insured, they're guaranteed, they have doctors available, they know what they're doing. Out here, you pick up a dog or a cat, you have no idea whose it is or what you're gonna do with it. You try to find somebody that'll take it.
Best thing to do usually is leave it alone.
Well, yeah, but some of us, you know, go, kitty, kitty, kitty,
Yeah.
kitty, 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 kitty.
Yeah. Well,
Poor little thing, it just wants some milk and a place to stay for the night. It'll go away in the morning, and then it doesn't go away in the morning.
Well, but we got into the situation with the gazebo. There was an animal involved in that crash. The person went to jail,
Yeah.
and the animal had to go somewhere.
Right.
And they took the animal down in the middle of the night to the shelter. So yes, it does serve a purpose, and we are on a corridor, there are animals traveling through town, and we need to be able to do something with
Second
them.
homeowners lose them, I mean, it
Yeah,
just.
exactly.
It is relatively inexpensive insurance for what it does cover. Now, there are arguments about, you know, how effective it is and how much we use them and all of that, but,
I would just move that we sign the Windham County Humane Society contract.
Is there a second for that?
second.
Is there any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of signing the Windham Humane Society contract signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Okay, I'll vote in the affirmative, the motion passes. Okay, so is there any other business that we forgot on the agenda?
on the agenda.
No other business, I'm on with adjourn.
Well, the next meeting is July 11th, as we've stated multiple times, so there's a motion to adjourn
4 o'clock tomorrow at the transfer, if anybody can come.
at 8:20. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We are adjourned, thank you.